Chapter 243. At that moment, the space was not as messy as Wang Daoyuan had imagined. There were not many losses to the Grade 2 spirit items. Almost all the Grade 1 spirit plants such as the spirit grains and scarlet blood ginseng were dead. Seeing that the situation was bad, the spirit beasts fled and did not suffer any losses. The soul-chasing bees also carried their beehives to avoid the attacks of the black spirit fire and suffered minimal losses. The black spirit fire stayed obediently in the lotus pond and did not dare to release its cold aura wantonly. The life spirit fire and dust returning flame at the side were much stronger. Even the peach blossom sapling supporting the life spirit fire seemed to have grown a little taller. It felt as though the two local tyrants had taken care of the new dragon. Through the memories of his clone, he knew that the black spirit fire was extremely domineering after entering and released its cold aura wantonly. Most of the Grade 1 spirit plants in the space were frozen to death at this moment. With the life spirit fire protecting the surroundings, there were no losses to these precious spirit plants. The reason why spirit fires were called spirits was because they had some spirituality. Even though they were far from being sentient and could not think, they had instinctive reactions. The actions of the black spirit fire threatened the life spirit fire and dust returning flame. Even though the two spirit fires were more peaceful, they would not allow themselves to be trampled on. Since the black spirit fire was looking for trouble, they retaliated. They released their spirit energy to fight against the cold aura and water attribute spirit energy. The spirit energy released by the black spirit fire contained both the cold aura and water attribute spirit energy. Even though the cold aura was extremely lethal to living beings, it was nothing to the spirit fire. The dust returning flame did not care at all. The peach blossom sapling supporting the life spirit fire was a living being as well. However, the peach blossom sapling possessed extremely strong yang aura. Even though it was not released, it could still defend against the attacks of the cold aura easily. Since the cold aura was ineffective against the two spirit fires, the remaining water attribute spirit energy was even more useless. Among the 5 elements, earth countered water and the dust returning flame countered the black spirit fire to begin with. As for the black spirit fire's water attribute spirit items, they would be absorbed by the peach blossom sapling and turned into spirit energy for the life spirit fire. Between the dust returning flame and the life spirit fire, one countered the other. Without sufficient spirit energy, the black spirit fire was not a match for it in a war of attrition. After tossing and turning in the space for 2 days, the black spiritual fire was terrified. It withdrew its yin qi and water attribute spiritual energy and hid in the lotus pond. He also did not know what the black spirit fire was called. Since it was born from the Gui Water Nether Spring, then it was called Gui Water Nether Flame. Wang Daoyuan set the position of the spiritual pearl space, and the returning dust flame was in the middle. The life spirit fire was of the wood attribute and corresponded to the east. The location of the life spirit fire was directly east, while the Gui Water Death Flame was directly north of the dust returning flame. The life spirit fire and the Gui Water Nether Flame were exactly 15 meters away from the dust returning flame. The space only lost spirit grains, red blood ginseng, and a few other rank 1 spirit herbs. With enough seeds stored, it wouldn't take much effort to replant them. On the contrary, he had suffered a great loss, losing 20% of his soul. According to the calculation, 1 black jade lotus seed could recover 1,000 of the soul. This meant that he had lost 200 lotus seeds. However, with the Gui Water Death Flame, the pure yin qi that the inky jade serene lotus needed did not have to worry. 200 lotus seeds wouldn't take too much time. After the injury of his soul was stabilized, he came to the end of the passage and continued to use the earth wall technique to block the passage. After all, the rock created by the earth wall technique was not as strong as the original rock. Previously, he had only condensed a 50 to 60 meter thick wall, and it might not be able to block the spring water. No matter what, he had to condense a 200 meter thick wall to ensure that it could withstand the pressure of the spring water. Just as he was concentrating on condensing the wall, the mysterious Yin market above was bustling, and it even alarmed the Zifu realm cultivators. Since 8 days ago, the amount of water in the mysterious Yin spring began to decrease, and the Yin qi gradually became thinner. Now, there was no Yin qi at all. There was a lot of evil qi, and the mysterious Yin spring could be renamed as the mysterious evil spring. Many Foundation establishment cultivators were at their wits' end, and specially invited the Zifu realm cultivators to come. The Zifu realm cultivators also didn't know the situation, and they didn't dare to go deep into the water to check. More than 10,000 miles south of the mysterious Yin spring, the Jindan realm cultivators of the underworld sect also panicked. Since 8 days ago, the Yin qi in the Darkwater River began to decrease, and now there was almost no Yin qi at all. The Yin qi in the Darkwater River was the foundation of the underworld sect. Without the Yin qi, the underworld sect's mountain gate would also be destroyed. If they couldn't find a new source of Yin qi, the underworld sect could directly announce its dissolution. The Yin qi could also be obtained by killing people and refining their souls, but the amount of Yin qi obtained was very small, and it was also very impure. Not to mention the poor effect of cultivation, it also had a lot of side effects. The underworld sect still had some reserves, which could last for a long time. Only the higher-ups knew that the Yin qi in the Darkwater River had been cut off, and the entire underworld sect was in a state of tranquility. The mysterious Yin market couldn't be hidden, and all the cultivators knew that the Yin qi in the mysterious Yin spring had disappeared. Many evil cultivators had already left the mysterious Yin spring to look for other sources of Yin qi. However, the evil qi in the mysterious Yin spring didn't decrease, and this thing was also very useful for evil cultivators, so most of the cultivators still continued to stay here. The culprit of all this was now using the earth wall technique to create rocks underground, and he didn't know that there was such a big commotion outside. His water storage space was too big, and his position was relatively low. It would take a long time for the water from the Gui water nether spring to fill up the entire storage space. During this time, the water from the Gui water nether spring couldn't be sent outside, and the Yin qi naturally couldn't go out. The Jade Spring Peak wasn't peaceful either. Wang Shui and the 2 Grand Supreme Elders were nervously looking at Wang Daoyuan's soul lamp in the ancestral temple. 7 or 8 days ago, the clansman found that his soul lamp was almost extinguished, which meant that Wang Daoyuan was seriously injured and dying. In the next few days, the flame of the soul lamp gradually stabilized, and the flame's height also increased a little, but not as high as before. This meant that Wang Daoyuan's injury was stable, and he had recovered a little, but he still hadn't recovered to his previous level. The 3 of them were very nervous, and they took turns to stare at the flame. Wang Daoyuan used half a month to fill up more than 100 feet of the passage with the earth wall technique. After that, he didn't hurry to go out, but continued to cultivate in the underground passage. His soul was seriously injured, and it was better to wait until he recovered before going out. In order to recover as soon as possible, he planted 8 more inky jade lotus in the lotus pond. With the Gui water nether flame, the Yin qi was completely enough. After that, he continued to eat lotus seeds to recover his spiritual sense. 3 months later, except for the 8 lotus seeds that he planted, the other lotus seeds were all refined by him. After eating 100 lotus seeds, his soul had recovered to 80%. The 3 people on the Jade Spring Peak saw that Wang Daoyuan's soul lamp was gradually recovering, and they were relieved. Wang Daoyuan cultivated in the underground cave for a year, and the second generation of lotus seeds had long matured. He ate more than 200 lotus seeds, and his soul was completely restored. His cultivation didn't fall behind, and it rose to the 5th level of Foundation establishment. At the 5th level of Foundation establishment, he could condense the 3rd spiritual power seed. With the Gui water nether flame, the 3rd spiritual power seed was naturally of the water attribute. After the Gui water nether flame was taught a lesson, it was much more obedient. When Wang Daoyuan took a part of the spiritual fire, it didn't do anything. Wang Daoyuan successfully used the essence of the Gui water nether flame to condense the pitch-black spiritual power seed. Then, he ran the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique, and used the spiritual power seed to completely refine the water attribute spiritual power in his body for the second time. At this time, the water spiritual power in his body had all turned pitch black. His soul had completely recovered, and his cultivation had broken through to the 5th level of foundation establishment. There was no point in continuing to stay here, and it was time to leave. Staying underground for about 10 years and not being able to grasp the latest news was very disadvantageous for a decision-maker. Chapter 244. It took Wang Daoyuan a month to walk out of the cave and return to the surface. He didn't bring the gold-biter rats. After all, they were too good at reproducing. Besides digging holes, they didn't have any value. If he put them in the space of the spirit pearl, they would bring disaster to all the spiritual creatures in the space. He changed into an evil cultivator's outfit and rode the tiger-souled dark fiend banner to the Xianin market. He only had one purpose in going to the Xianin market, to kill Su Ting and teach that Wu Brat a lesson. Ever since he left the mountain, there were only 3 times where he was chased like a dog. Zhang Deshang was killed on the spot. The dark cloud wolves couldn't bear the humiliation and left their homes. This time, he couldn't swallow this anger if he didn't give that Wu Brat a good lesson. Wu Brat wasn't in the same group as the Zhao clan. Keeping him alive could slow down the expansion of the Zhao clan's strength. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan didn't plan to kill him. He only wanted to kill Su Ting as a warning. Flying on his magic tool, he soon arrived at the Xianin spring. From the sky, he saw something wrong with the scene below. In the past, around the Xianin spring and on both sides of the river, there were densely packed cultivators collecting evil yin qi. But now, there were many empty spaces around the Xianin spring. On both sides of the river, there were even more empty spaces. Wang Daoyuan didn't find anything wrong with the Xianin spring in the sky. When he landed on the river downstream of the Xianin spring, he found that there was only evil qi and no yin qi in the river. He asked an old cultivator at the 4th level of foundation establishment beside him, "Dao Yu, I've been traveling in other places for many years. What's wrong with the Xianin spring? Why is there only evil qi and no yin qi?" The old cultivator sighed and said, "Who knows? More than a year ago, the yin qi in the Xianin spring gradually decreased. Later, it completely disappeared. Since there is no more yin energy here, many of the fellow Taoists who mainly cultivate yin energy have left." Wang Daoyuan guessed that the yin qi in the Xianin spring came from the Gui water nether spring. When he was torturing the Gui water nether spring, he didn't think that it would have any negative effects on the Xianin spring. The water storage space he dug next to the Gui water nether spring was too big. If the Gui water nether spring wanted to come out again, he had to fill the water storage space first. The water storage space was 100 feet in length, width, and height, and the Gui water nether spring could only gush out 400 to 500 caddies of water in one breath. It would probably take a few years to fill up the storage space. In the next few years, the yin qi in the dark yin spring would not recover, and a large number of evil cultivators would leave. As a result, the speed at which the Zhao family expanded their strength would slow down. He also thought of the underworld water river. The water of the Gui water underworld spring was mainly divided into 2 branches, north and south. The northern branch was the profound yin spring, while the southern branch was the dark water river. The Gui water nether spring was tormented by him, the profound yin spring had no more yin qi, and the nether water river was not spared either. He naturally knew what the yin qi of the dark water river meant to the nether sect. In the next few years before the Gui water nether spring filled the water storage space, the strategy of the netherworld sect would probably change greatly. They could either fight with their backs to the wall and take the risk of devouring the Crescent Sun Palace, or find a way to reach a compromise with the Crescent Sun Palace and then quietly search for other sources of yin energy. After being cut off from the world for almost 10 years, he knew nothing about what happened in the Zhao country. He originally wanted to kill Su Ting, then leave this place and head to the Guiyan market. Now that he had the inky jade lotus seed, he was not afraid of his soul being damaged. He could send his clone Wu Yi to infiltrate the Blood Shadow and find a way to trick the Yang Purple Jade. He could even think of a way to kill Yu Lang and use his identity to trick the Yang Purple Jade. Now that the situation with the Netherworld sect was unclear, the Wang family, as a subordinate force of the Netherworld sect, would inevitably be affected by the Netherworld sect. He needed to hurry back. He did not think about killing Su Ting anymore. He cupped his hands and said to the old cultivator, "Thank you, Dao Yu, for clearing my doubts. Since there is no more Yin Qi here, there is no point for me to stay here. Goodbye." With that, he rode the Tiger Soul Yin Fiend banner and headed east. The south of the Xianin market was the range of the Huiyan Mountains main vein. He did not dare to cross the main vein directly. After traveling more than 2,000 miles in the east, he suddenly found a huge bird blocking his path. He immediately lowered his altitude and landed on the ground. It was too disadvantageous to fight a bird in the air. Seeing that he landed on the ground, the bird also lowered its altitude. When the bird got closer, Wang Daoyuan recognized that it was a familiar bird. It was the bone-devouring vulture that attacked him at the Nine Springs Peak. If the bone-devouring vulture was here, the Wu guy must be here as well. The bone-devouring vulture was very fast. In a short while, it was only 200 to 300 feet away from him. Two people jumped down from the bone-devouring vulture's back. They were both familiar people. It was the young cultivator surnamed Wu and Su Ting. Wang Daoyuan was happy. He was worried about the safety of his family and did not want to bother with these two people. He did not expect that these two idiots would come to him. Before the cultivator surnamed Wu could say anything, Su Ting smiled and said, "Dao Yuzhou, I didn't expect that we would meet again. I don't know where you can run to this time." The cultivator surnamed Wu said fiercely, "You surnamed Zhou, you are really capable. You actually escaped from under my nose. I wanted to extract your soul and refine it, but my Wu family is recruiting. As long as you can give me your cultivation method, sign a master-servant contract, and recognize me as your master, I will spare your dog life." Wang Daoyuan quietly watched them entertain themselves. When the cultivator surnamed Wu finished speaking, he said with a smile, "I had an urgent matter to attend to and did not want to deal with you, but you just had to court death." After saying that, he directly used the cloud mist escape and rushed towards Su Ting. At this time, the cloud he used the cloud mist escape was no longer white, but black. This black cloud also had the effect of attacking spiritual sense and the soul. No one would be able to recognize that it was the cloud mist escape. Before Su Ting could react, Wang Daoyuan grabbed his neck. Wang Daoyuan injected water attribute spiritual power into Su Ting's head. Su Ting suddenly struggled violently. But no matter how hard he struggled, he could not break free from Wang Daoyuan's hand. The cultivator surnamed Wu wanted to rescue him, but Wang Daoyuan used the cloud mist escape to avoid him. After 10 breaths of time, Su Ting stopped struggling. Wang Daoyuan once again condensed earth attribute spiritual power to cover Su Ting's body. After 20 breaths of time, Su Ting's body turned into a large amount of spiritual power and a small pile of ashes. Seeing this, the cultivator surnamed Wu's sword hand trembled, even forgetting to summon the bone vulture to help. The bone vulture was also frightened by this scene. Without its master telling it to act, it also did not dare to take the initiative to attack. The cultivator surnamed Wu remembered that he still had the advantage of cultivation, so he gathered his courage and cursed, "Reckless fool, you dare to kill my Wu family's people." Without waiting for him to finish, Wang Daoyuan waved his hand, saying, "Don't talk nonsense, I wanted to let you go, but you just had to come to court death." Saying that, he used the cloud mist escape again and rushed towards the cultivator surnamed Wu. At the same time, he started to condense a meteor shower technique. The cultivator surnamed Wu is a 7th layer foundation establishment cultivator, so he naturally won't just sit there and wait for death. With a wave of his sword, a sword light swept towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the cloud mist escape again to dodge the attack. After a breath of time, the meteor shower technique was fully charged. A flaming meteor flew out from his hands, hitting the cultivator surnamed Wu. The cultivator surnamed Wu couldn't dodge in time and was hit in the chest by the meteor. While Wang Daoyuan was digging underground, he often practiced these spells, so he could already use the meteor shower technique one breath at a time. Combined with the improvement of his cultivation, the power of this attack was about 10 times that of a mid-grade second-step golden saber talisman. Furthermore, he also practiced the second layer of Earth Divine Lightning, which allowed him to use it in half a breath, 20 times that of a mid-grade second-step golden saber talisman. Although the power of the flaming meteor was far inferior to Earth Divine Lightning, it was enough to hit the cultivator surnamed Wu. After being hit by the flaming meteor, the cultivator surnamed Wu was sent flying. At the place where he was about to land, Wang Daoyuan used a quagmire technique, causing the cultivator surnamed Wu to fall into a swamp. Chapter 245. Although this brat surnamed Wu hadn't broken through in 10 years and was a bit of a waste, his cultivation at the 7th level of Foundation establishment was solid. Previously, he had been scared silly by Wang Daoyuan's sudden attack, but now that he had fallen into the swamp, he felt the corrosive power of the swamp and immediately sobered up. After all, the swamp technique was just a common second-grade spell, and Wang Daoyuan's cultivation was lower than the cultivator surnamed Wu, so it naturally couldn't trap him. The cultivator surnamed Wu's spiritual energy burst out, directly breaking the swamp technique. He looked at the trembling bone-eating vulture in the distance and roared, "Why aren't you coming over to help? What use are you?" Seeing its master angry, the bone-eating vulture immediately flew over and attacked Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew that the swamp technique couldn't trap the cultivator surnamed Wu, so after casting the swamp technique, he began to accumulate spiritual energy, preparing to cast the meteor fall technique. At the moment, he could cast 10 flaming meteors in a row, and he only needed 9 breaths to accumulate spiritual energy. By the time the bone-eating vulture flew over, he had already finished accumulating spiritual energy and shot out a flaming meteor. Although the bone-eating vulture wasn't known for its speed, it was still a bird after all, so it was much more agile than a human cultivator, dodging the first flaming meteor. The second and third came one after another, and the bone-eating vulture had just dodged a flaming meteor. Before it could adjust its flying posture and dodge, it was hit by 2 flaming meteors. The cultivator surnamed Wu didn't stay idle, shooting out several sword rays in a row. He seemed to walk the path of a sword cultivator, so the power of his sword rays was quite good. But he always felt that it was a bit lacking, not knowing if it was because of an incomplete inheritance or a problem with his beliefs. Compared to Li Qingchuan, the speed of his sword rays couldn't be measured. Wang Daoyuan continuously used the smoke escape, dodging all the attacks. His cultivation had increased a lot, and after using the Gui Water Serene Lotus to recover his soul, his spiritual sense cultivation had increased greatly, so he didn't feel any pressure to use 2 high-level spells at the same time. The bone-eating vulture ate 5 flaming meteors in a row, so even if its body was strong, it couldn't bear it. Many of the sword feathers on its wings had been knocked off, and its body was seriously injured, so it couldn't fly anymore, lying on the ground whining. After taking down the bone-devouring vulture, there were still 4 flaming meteorites left. The cultivator surnamed Wu continued to send out sword beams. Wang Daoyuan no longer dodged and directly released flaming meteorites to meet the sword beams head-on. The power of the sword ray was incomparable to that of the flaming meteorite. 1 flaming meteorite could cancel out 3 sword rays. After the cultivator surnamed Wu shattered 2 meteorites in a row, he was hit by the third one and was sent flying more than 3 feet high. Before he could land, the 4th meteorite arrived, and he flew even higher. After flying for more than 200 feet, he finally landed on the ground. He rolled a few times on the ground and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Then, he stood up with the support of his sword. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat astonished. The resistance of a 7th-level Foundation establishment cultivator was actually so strong. After the cultivator surnamed Wu steadied himself, he held his sword with both hands. Intense spiritual energy fluctuations appeared on the long sword. Wang Daoyuan probed with his divine sense. This spiritual energy fluctuation was somewhat familiar. It was the spiritual energy fluctuation of the heaven-cleaving sword. The inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect was really too common. He also wanted to test the level of his heaven-cleaving sword. After using the meteorite fall technique, he took out the golden-edged sword that he took from Li Qingxuan and also used the heaven-cleaving sword. After 10 breaths, the cultivator surnamed Wu slashed out with his long sword. A 200-foot-long giant sword phantom slashed towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan swung his golden-edged sword. A 25-foot-long giant sword phantom swept towards him. The two giant sword phantoms collided. The giant sword phantom of the cultivator surnamed Wu was cut in two and disappeared. Wang Daoyuan's giant sword phantom only dimmed a lot and continued to sweep. The cultivator surnamed Wu used his long sword to block, but it was directly cut in half by the giant sword phantom. Wang Daoyuan swept the giant sword phantom diagonally upwards, avoiding the cultivator's head and cutting off his bun. The cultivator surnamed Wu was so scared that he sat down on the ground. After gasping for breath for a long time, he stood up and said, "If you want to kill me, do as you please. Why do you have to humiliate me like this?" Wang Daoyuan snorted and said disdainfully, "I wanted to teach you a lesson, but I had an urgent matter to attend to. I didn't want to trouble you, but you insisted on courting death. You are still useful to me alive, so I will let you go." After saying this, he didn't look at him and flew towards the east. The cultivator surnamed Wu picked up the broken sword and put the bone vulture into the spiritual beast pouch. He walked towards the direction of the Xianin market in a daze. Wang Daoyuan flew towards the east. When he was 9,000 miles away from the Guiyan market, he turned towards the south and crossed the Huiyan mountain. This was the remnant of the Huiyan mountain. There were no third-rank demonic beasts here. As long as they didn't attack the ground, second-rank demonic beasts usually didn't care about cultivators flying over. He returned to the south of the mountain without any danger. He changed the flying sword under his feet to the shocking wind sword. A few hours later, he returned to the Jade Spring Peak. As soon as he arrived at the Jade Spring Peak, the 12th uncle and the two Grand Supreme Elders immediately came to welcome him and pulled Wang Daoyuan into the ancestral temple. The 12th uncle Wang Shi asked, "Daoyuan, what happened to you more than a year ago? The soul lamp you left in the clan almost went out?" Wang Daoyuan didn't need to think to know that when he received the Gui water death flame, his soul was seriously damaged, which affected his soul lamp. He answered, "I encountered a strong enemy and was seriously injured. Later, I escaped to a secret place and came back after I recovered." He glanced at the three of them with his divine sense. The cultivation level of the 5th uncle Wang Jian had already reached the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm. The great-grandfather was also in the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. As for the 12th uncle Wang Shui, he was still in the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "12th uncle, it's not appropriate for you to hide your cultivation level. You entered the Foundation Establishment realm earlier than me, and now your cultivation level is the same as mine. It's not very appropriate." The great-grandfather sensed his cultivation level and smiled. "Good boy, your cultivation level is improving really fast. You're already in the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm." The 12th uncle handed a jade slip to Wang Daoyuan and said, "It's more appropriate for you to enter the 3rd layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. It's too conspicuous for a cultivator with 5 spiritual roots to reach the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm so quickly." Wang Daoyuan's divine sense entered the jade slip and saw that there was a relatively advanced aura concealment spell recorded inside, aura concealment spell. When this spell was practiced to the point of perfection, it could suppress one's cultivation level to that of an ordinary person. It could be used by anyone below the Golden Core realm. He memorized the contents of the jade slip and returned it to the 12th uncle. He asked, "How come I've never seen such an advanced spell before?" The 12th uncle smiled and said, "How can a spell to hide one's strength be used in the open? It's always been kept by the patriarch. Only Foundation Establishment cultivators are qualified to practice it. It's just that your cultivation level was still normal before, so I didn't give it to you. Your cultivation level has improved too quickly after this trip, so it's better to hide it. Wang Daoyuan nodded and asked, did the Netherworld sect do anything unusual in the 10 years I was away? Especially in the past year or so, did the Netherworld sect do anything big? The 12th uncle thought for a while and replied, the Netherworld sect was still stable before, but more than a year ago, the Netherworld sect's attitude suddenly changed greatly. They began to communicate with the Thousand Spirits sect and the Cruel Sun Palace to stop the confrontation. They said that they found that the remnants of the Zhao family were recruiting troops in the north of the mountain. If they continued to fight, the Zhao royal family would revive the country and the 3 major sects would be finished. You also found that the Zhao family was recruiting troops in the Guiyan market. The Netherworld sect has been in the north of the mountain for more than 100 years. The Zhao family is so bold that it's impossible for the Netherworld sect not to find out. They ignored them for so many years, and now they suddenly want to deal with the Zhao family. I originally thought that the Zhao family's strength was enough to threaten the Netherworld sect, so the Netherworld sect wanted to join forces with the other 2 major sects to deal with the Zhao family. Why do you mean that there's a hidden story? Chapter 246. Wang Daoyuan smiled, of course there's a secret. The Yin Qi in the Mingshui River disappeared, and the Underworld sect became anxious. 5th great-uncle Wang Jian asked doubtfully, is there such a thing? The Mingshui River is the foundation of the Underworld sect. Without the Yin Qi, the Underworld sect will be in danger. However, there's no news about this at all. How did you know? Wang Daoyuan replied, it seems that the Underworld sect hid it well. I didn't get the news from the Underworld sect, but from outside. I read in ancient books that the Mingshui River of the Underworld sect and the mysterious Yin Spring in the north of the mountain have the same source. In the mysterious Yin Spring, Yin Qi and evil Qi coexist. More than a year ago, the mysterious Yin Spring suddenly had no Yin Qi. I guess the Mingshui River may also have no Yin Qi. At this time, the Underworld sect's foreign policy happened to change greatly, which means that there's indeed an internal problem. Wang Shi pondered, if there's a problem with the Mingshui River, then the Underworld sect's decline is only a matter of time. We have to prepare to prevent the Underworld sect from falling into the hands of the Cruel Sun Palace. Why don't we attack the Fallen Dragon Ridge together and open up the migration channel as soon as possible? Wang Daoyuan smiled, don't worry. This situation is also recorded in ancient books. Tens of thousands of years ago, a similar situation occurred. It will be restored in a few years. Wang Shui was still not assured, and asked, are you confident? Of course, he was confident. No one was more confident than him in this matter. Unless the water in the Gui Water Nether Spring broke the more than 100 feet thick stone wall that he resealed, and the spring water flowed into the underground cave from the passage. In that case, the Underworld sect would be completely destroyed. However, Wang Daoyuan was still confident in his earth wall technique. Although it was not as strong as the original rock wall, it was far stronger than ordinary rock. The original rock wall only needed to be 10 feet thick to resist the pressure of the spring water. Now the stone wall was more than 100 feet deep, and it would not be broken. Besides, the cracks in the rock above the spring water were still there, and the spring water had places to leak out, so the pressure would not be too great. Wang Daoyuan replied, don't worry, it's a sure thing. Wang Shui smiled and said, that's good. As long as the Netherworld sect can still hold on for the time being, we have enough time to make preparations. However, if the Netherworld sect could reach an agreement with the other 2 sects, the other 3 sects would definitely think of a way to deal with the Gui Yuan Sword sect. At that time, I'm afraid that they will still recruit the subordinate clans. We have to be prepared. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, this is to be expected. We can't avoid it. However, to attack Shanbei, in addition to dealing with the Wanling sect and the Cruel Sun Palace, we also need to get the agreement of the demons and half-demons. It can't be done in a short time. Wang Daoyuan continued to ask, by the way, after I left, did anything happen to Yun Yi, Gold Wing, and Thunder Ape? Also, did anything major happen to the family? Wang Shui replied, your 3 spirit beasts are quite obedient. Yun Yi and Jin Yi have already reached the 2nd rank, and the Thunder Ape is still the same. Yun Yi continued to transport goods and earn some barbecued meat. After its breakthrough, its body grew to about 7 to 8 feet long, and it was so fat that it no longer looked like a tiger. Jin Yi was patrolling the family territory to prevent people from sneaking up on the family business. The Thunder Ape bullied the demons in the Linji mountain area and looked for spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits to make wine. There were 3 big things in the family. First, the forbidden spirit silk had started to be sold. It could bring in tens of thousands of spirit stones a year, and the income was increasing year by year. The Qing River carp had also started to be sold. However, 80% of the profits were given to the Netherworld sect, so the income was not much. The third thing was that Dao Heng had spent 10 years to finally determine the recipe for the spiritual peach dew wine, and the family had started to expand the planting area of the golden jade peach. After 10 or 20 years, the spiritual peach dew would also become an important business of the family. This is the recipe for the spiritual peach dew, take it. After that, he handed Wang Daoyuan a jade slip. After Wang Daoyuan accepted the jade slip, he said, since there's nothing else, I'll go and see my parents first. I've been away from home for 10 years, so I have to go back and see them. Wang Shui seemed to have thought of something and said, right, a month later is the Yang family's ancestor's 400th birthday. You're also a descendant of the Yang family's ancestor. If you have time, come with me to celebrate. Wang Daoyuan replied, okay, I'll bring my parents along when the time comes. Right, have you prepared the gift? Our Wang family is the Yang family's most important ally, so the gift can't be light. Wang Shi said, this gift is not easy to give. Although our Wang family has many good things, they're all suitable for business and not suitable to be given as gifts. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, since that's the case, then leave the gift to me. I have some treasures here that are useful for Zifu realm cultivators. He planned to give some inky jade lotus seeds. For Zifu realm cultivators, although this thing could not repair the soul, it was still useful in increasing the cultivation of divine sense. Inky jade lotus was also planted in the Netherworld sect, but this thing used up too much yin qi, so the Netherworld sect did not plant much. It was also not easy for Zifu realm cultivators to exchange for it. After bidding farewell to the 3, Wang Daoyuan first cultivated the spirit concealment technique in the cave. He had to hide his cultivation first. It was indeed too conspicuous to wander around with a 5th-level foundation establishment cultivation. 3 days later, he reached the entry level of the spirit concealment technique and successfully suppressed his cultivation to the 4th level of foundation establishment. 10 years ago, he was already at the 3rd level of foundation establishment. Now that he was at the 4th level, it was reasonable. He left Jade Spring Peak and went to Clear Creek Village to visit his parents. An hour later, Wang Daoyuan came to the door of his house and made a noise. Big Black rushed out of the kennel. Seeing that its master had returned, it immediately shook its head and wagged its tail and rubbed against Wang Daoyuan, wanting to get some benefits. This guy was now a high-grade rank 1 demonic beast, equivalent to a human cultivator at the 9th level of Qi Disciple. Big Black was able to obtain the Black Cloud Wolf's approval and looked very similar to the Black Cloud Wolf. It should have quite a bit of the Black Cloud Wolf's bloodline. If the Black Cloud Wolf could become a rank 2 demonic beast, so could Big Black. He took out a storage bag and handed it to Big Black. The storage bag contained a low-grade rank 2 beast blood pill, which was refined from the blood essence of the fierce blood pig and could help spirit beasts advance to rank 2. Big Black was not far from reaching rank 2. In the future, it could lead the wolf pack to guard the family's transit station. It held the storage bag in its mouth and ran back to its kennel. Wang Daoyuan entered the house. This 3-sectioned courtyard was very lively. His eldest brother, Wang Meng, had many children and grandchildren. Today was the 100th day of Wang Meng's first great-grandson, so many family members gathered together. His parents were almost 90 years old and had 5 generations under the same roof. They were all happy that they had become ancestors. Wang Daoyuan entered the courtyard. The family members who came to congratulate him, as well as the descendants of his family, did not dare to breathe loudly. He bowed to his parents and then to his eldest brother and sister-in-law. After that, the others called him second uncle and second grandpa and knelt down. Wang Daoyuan waved casually and said, "You're welcome." Everyone was blown up by a gust of wind. Then, he cast a rejuvenation spell that enveloped everyone in the courtyard. His spiritual power had the characteristics of the spiritual fire of life, which was also very beneficial to ordinary people. Everyone felt comfortable all over and their diseases disappeared. They seemed to be 10 years younger. Wang Daoyuan seemed to have discovered something and took over today's main character, his great-grandson, who had just reached 100 days old. After using the rejuvenation technique, the others still had a trace of wood attribute spiritual power in them. Only his great-grandson's wood attribute spiritual power had completely disappeared. He held his great-grandson and used the rejuvenation technique again, carefully observing the changes in his great-grandson with his divine sense. He saw that most of the spiritual power that fell on the little guy dissipated, and a very small part was absorbed by the little guy. This little guy should have a wood attribute spiritual root. Even if people with spiritual roots did not cultivate, they would automatically absorb some spiritual power to strengthen their bodies. However, the amount of spiritual power absorbed was very small, and ordinary cultivators would not notice it at all. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother. This little guy has a spiritual root and can enter the family's spiritual mountain in the future." Chapter 247. The greatest honor for the ordinary clansmen of the Wang family was to enter the ancestral temple after death and receive incense from the descendants. According to the clan rules, foundation establishment cultivators and clansmen who made great contributions to the clan could enter the ancestral temple. However, as Wang Daoyuan's collateral relative, Wang Meng could not bask in Wang Daoyuan's glory and enter the ancestral temple after death. If his great-grandson could build his foundation or make great contributions to the clan, he would be able to enter the ancestral temple. Therefore, he was very excited. He also had some understanding of cultivation. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, he immediately asked excitedly, "How's this child's spirit root?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "This child is too young to test his spirit root. We can only determine that this child has a wood spirit root. Third brother and I can test our spirit roots in advance because of our special physiques. Ordinary people who are less than 10 years old can't test their spirit roots. Wood spirit energy is the most gentle and will not hurt the child. Other spirit energies may hurt him, so we can't use other spirit energies to test him. Big brother, don't worry. With me around, no matter how bad this child's aptitude is, as long as he is willing to work hard, it won't be a problem to build his foundation." He prioritized his cultivation. If Wang Daoyin joined the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it would be hard to say if they could find a Dao companion in the future. Their parents' bloodline could only be passed down by Big Brother's lineage. Helping Big Brother's descendant could be considered as filial piety. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's promise, Wang Meng's face was full of joy. As long as his great-grandson could build his foundation, he would have no problem entering the ancestral temple. After staying at home for a few days, Wang Daoyuan left some spirit grains and went to Linji Mountain to check on the situation there. The 3 spirit beasts had not seen him for 10 years, so he had to comfort them. Yin-Yi and Golden Wing were raised by him, so they were less wild. The Thunder Ape was taken in halfway. Apes were especially irritable and easily caused trouble. When he flew near Linji Mountain on his sword, the 3 spirit beasts sensed him and quickly arrived. Golden Wing did not change much except for its cultivation. As a fierce beast, it was very cold. It landed on Wang Daoyuan's shoulder and ate a few pieces of spirit beast meat before flying away to continue its patrol mission. Yun-Yi was more clingy. They hadn't seen each other for 10 years, and her entire tiger body had grown bigger. She was about to turn into a ball. If his wings weren't formed by magic, he wouldn't have been able to fly. Seeing that its master had returned, it swooped down from the sky. Wang Daoyuan saw a huge meatball in the air and immediately used earth armor. As soon as the earth armor phantom was formed, the meatball came crashing over. His entire body was sent flying more than 60 meters, and he was sent flying together with the meatball. After the man and tiger stopped, Wang Daoyuan was pressed down by Yun-Yi, and he had to use the earth escape technique to escape. Looking at Yun-Yi's belly that was dragging on the ground, if it wasn't for the fact that she could fly, she wouldn't even have the ability to move. Wang Daoyuan felt that it was time to let it join the battle and lose some weight. After getting a few pounds of barbecued meat from Wang Daoyuan, Yun-Yi went back to her job of earning barbecued meat. The thunder ape couldn't fly, so it was the last to arrive. When she saw Wang Daoyuan, she stretched out a hand. Wang Daoyuan handed her a bottle of wine, and she took it and drank it in one gulp. Then, she left Linji Mountain and continued her work of collecting the spirit wine recipe. After the 3 spirit beasts left, Wang Daoyuan stayed on Linji Mountain to collect spirit herbs to make spirit peach dew liquor starter. Previously, he hadn't fully explored the spirit peach dew liquor starter's recipe, and the spirit fields in the space of the spirit pearl were limited, so he only transplanted golden jade peaches. Golden jade peaches tasted good and were very suitable for recovering spirit energy, but the recovery speed was still not as fast as scarlet blood wine. Therefore, he only ate them for fun. Now that he had thoroughly researched the wine recipe and could brew spirit peach dew, he naturally had to plant some spirit herbs to make the liquor starter. With the spirit peach dew liquor, the scarlet blood wine would only be used to heal injuries, so there was no need to plant so many scarlet blood ginseng. There were originally 6 acres of scarlet blood ginseng in the space, but now there was only 1 acre left. Of the 5 acres of spirit fields, blood jiancho and muscle-growing grass shared 1 acre to brew the improved scarlet blood wine. As for the other 4 acres, 3 acres were planted with golden jade peaches, and 1 acre was planted with the spirit herbs in the liquor starter's recipe. The amount of liquor starter used was very small, so he didn't need to plant too many spirit herbs. After transplanting the spirit herbs, Wang Daoyuan went to investigate Fallen Dragon Ridge. In the past, he only relied on the reports of the spirit-chasing bees to make judgments, so it wasn't accurate enough. Now that he had cultivated the aura concealment technique, other than hiding his cultivation level, he could also hide his own aura. With this technique, he didn't need to worry about being discovered as long as he didn't encounter any demonic beasts with tracking abilities when investigating Fallen Dragon Ridge. After wandering around Fallen Dragon Ridge for more than 20 days, it was time to prepare to celebrate the birthday of the Yang clan's ancestor. He rode Yun-Yi to Qingxi village, picked up his parents, and returned to Jade Spring Peak. After Wang Shui was ready, the 4 of them rode Yun-Yi to the Yang clan's Giant Wood Peak. Giant Wood Peak was the main spirit vein of the Yang clan. There was a towering poplar tree on the mountain, which was how it got its name. Although the Wang and Yang clans were old friends and had a lot of dealings, Wang Daoyuan had never been to Giant Wood Peak. When the 4 of them arrived at Giant Wood Peak, Yang Yulin immediately went to welcome them. The 4 of them got off Yun-Yi's back, and Wang Daoyuan sent Yun-Yi back. After all, they were here to celebrate the birthday. If anyone made Yun-Yi unhappy, it would roar and suppress everyone, and it wouldn't end well. The Yang clan's arrangements were very thoughtful. Even Wang Daoyuan's parents were received by someone. The person who received Wang Daoyuan's parents was Madame Yang's childhood playmate. This person was also a cultivator, but his aptitude was poor and he didn't have the qualifications to build his foundation. Wang Daoyuan and the 12th uncle followed Yang Yulin to the hall where the birthday banquet was held. When the 2 of them arrived at the entrance of the hall, Wang Daoyuan took out a gift box and a gift list and handed it to the Yang clan member in charge of receiving the gifts. In the cultivation world, there were two ways to give gifts. One was with a gift list, and the other was without a gift list. Without a gift list, it meant that the gift was ordinary, and the receiving party didn't need to sing the gift list. If it was with a gift list, it meant that the gift was not ordinary, and the receiving party needed to sing the gift list. Of course, if the gift list was not enough, it would also be mocked. The Yang clan member solemnly took the gift and the gift list, and sang according to the gift list: Jade Spring Wang Clan, 3 dark jade lotus seeds, 50 soul strengthening pills, 50 essence condensing pills. As soon as this was said, whether it was the Yang clan members or the cultivators who came to congratulate, they were all in an uproar. Although the dark jade lotus seeds didn't have a significant effect in repairing soul injuries, most of the people whose souls were injured, the injuries were very light. 1 dark jade lotus seed was enough to almost recover. Moreover, this thing had a very strong effect in improving divine sense, and it was useful for Zifu realm cultivators. The dark jade lotus seeds weren't considered a heaven and earth treasure, but who was willing to give such a precious thing away? Even Wang Shui, who was next to him, was shocked. This wasn't the place to talk, and he didn't ask. Yang Yulin quickly reacted, and brought the two into the hall to greet Yang Yong. The two entered, and after seeing Yang Yong, they bowed and said, "Congratulations to Elder Yang, old ancestor Yang, on your 400th birthday. I wish Elder Yang, old ancestor Yang, to improve your cultivation and see the great Tao of Oris Core soon." Yang Yong smiled. "No need for formalities, please take a seat." After the two were seated, Yang Yulin came to Yang Yong's side with a jade box in his hand. Yang Yong took the jade box, opened it, and said, "It really is the dark jade lotus seeds. Where did the Wang clan get such a treasure?" These lotus seeds were picked nearly a year ago, and had been in the space of the spirit pearl. It was obvious that they weren't just picked, and it was hard to determine the specific year. Wang Daoyuan stood up and cupped his hands, replying to old ancestor Yang, "This lotus seed was found by chance when I was traveling in the north of the mountain." Yang Yong asked again, "Where in the north of the mountain?" Chapter 248. A small inky jade lotus seed was able to make Yang Yong lose his composure and forget the rule of not prying into other people's privacy. It seemed that those gold-core old fellows of the Netherworld sect were really anxious. Yang Yong was not a native of the Netherworld sect, so the possibility of him knowing the specific situation was not high. The native higher-ups were unlikely to announce the disappearance of the Yin Qi in the Darkwater River. Otherwise, the foreign factions and family factions would definitely have ideas. They were different from the native faction of the Netherworld sect. The native faction and the Netherworld sect were bound together for good or ill. The other two factions were not like this. They could switch to other sects at any time. Their inheritance was also not a direct descendant of the Netherworld sect, so the other sects would not exterminate them. It was probably those gold core cultivators of the Netherworld sect who issued a mission to find the Yin Qi in a roundabout way and promised great rewards. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, replying to old ancestor Yang, "This junior killed a treasure-snatching cultivator more than 10,000 miles north of the Guoyan market. This inky jade lotus seed was obtained from the cultivator who stole the treasure." Hearing this, Yang Yong pondered for a while and said, "Around 10,000 miles north of the Guoyan market, there is a desert and some sparse grassland nearby. There is only a mirror treasure oasis that can be counted as a good spirit vein. In this case, that treasure-snatching cultivator most likely obtained the inky jade lotus seed in the mirror treasure oasis." After saying this, he realized that he was a little rude and explained, "To be honest, a gold-core old ancestor in the sect obtained a precious spirit plant that needs to be cultivated with pure Yin Qi. The Yin Qi in the Darkwater River is not pure enough, so a high reward is offered for a pure Yin Qi. If it can be found in the mirror treasure lake, then Daoyuan will take the credit." Wang Daoyuan repeatedly said that he did not dare. This junior only killed a treasure-snatching cultivator and does not dare to take credit. Besides, I don't know if that cultivator obtained the lotus seed near the mirror treasure lake. If we can't find the pure Yin Qi in the mirror treasure lake, I hope old ancestor will not blame us. In addition, according to this junior's knowledge, there is Yin Qi in the profound Yin Spring area. Yang Yong said with a smile, no matter, even if we can't find it, we won't blame you. However, the dark Yin Spring's Yin Qi is baleful Yin Qi and is not suitable for growing spirit plants. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't believe this nonsense. The people of the underworld sect should also know about the disappearance of the profound Yin Spring's Yin Qi. Afterwards, Yang Yong said to the guests present, if you can find pure Yin Qi, the gold core stage ancestor will reward you heavily. Everyone agreed in unison. Other than the Liang family, all the families in the north of Qingli County were present. After that, the cultivators of the Yang family began to pay their respects according to their seniority. According to the seniority of the Wang and Yang families, Wang Daoyuan should be Yang Yong's great-great-grandson. Because of him, Wang Fu and Wang Yangshe were supposed to be the seventh generation, but they were arranged to be in the generation of Yang Yong's great-grandchildren. The two old men were the only two ordinary people among the guests. However, no one dared to look down on them. Wang Daoyuan wasn't even 70 years old, but he was already in the middle stage of foundation establishment. It wasn't impossible for him to open the Violet Palace in the future. Moreover, there was also Wang Daoyin, who was accepted as a direct disciple by a gold core stage cultivator with outstanding talent. His Violet Palace was set in stone, and the possibility of him reaching the gold core stage was also very high. The two of them paid their respects together with the foundation establishment cultivators of the Yang family, and their status was even higher than the Qi cultivators of the Yang family. Wang Daoyuan, as Yang Yong's direct descendant, also paid his respects along with Yang Yulan, Yang Yuhu, and the other great-great-grandchildren. The Yang family's current seniority was only in the 6th generation. After the Yang family's greetings, the birthday banquet officially began. The guests toasted the birthday boy Yang Yong according to their status. The Wang family had the highest status in the Yang family's camp and was ranked second only to the cultivators sent by the underworld sect. After the underworld sect cultivators finished their greetings, Wang Shui stood up and said a few words of blessings before returning to his seat. Next, each family stood up and toasted their guests according to their strength. After the toast, Yang Yong stood up and said, "Today is my 400th birthday, and we shouldn't talk about official matters." However, it was rare for everyone to be present, so he decided to make an announcement. I'm sure everyone knows that the Underworld sect and the Savage Sun Palace have been fighting in the West for more than 40 years. Now that the remnants of the Zhao family are causing trouble in the north of the mountain, several Gold Core stage ancestors have decided to let bygones be bygones with the Savage Sun Palace. With the mediation of the Myriad Spirit sect, the Savage Sun Palace also agreed. But the reason why the two sects were fighting was because of a spirit stone mine. This spirit stone mine stretched for hundreds of miles, and after a simple mining, more than 10,000 spirit stones were mined, of which more than 10% were mid-grade spirit stones. There were also dozens of upper-grade spirit stones. The entire spirit stone mine was worth tens of millions of spirit stones, and the amount of spirit stones produced every year was also hundreds of thousands. But this spirit stone mine was located at the western border of the Darkwada County, and was also the border between the two sections. It was originally discovered by the Underworld sect disciples, but the Savage Sun Palace wanted to take it away. Thus, the conflict between the two sects was triggered. Now that the conflict was to be stopped, the core issue was how to deal with the spirit stone mine. After a discussion, the Gold Core stage ancestors of the three sects decided to send out 6 batches of cultivators, ranging from early foundation establishment to late Zifu realm, with 20 people in each batch. They would fight one-on-one according to their cultivation level. Whichever side's cultivators were all defeated would be the winner, and they would obtain 1/6 of the spirit stone mine's output. The sect master's intention was that the cultivators of the subordinate clans could also participate. If you win a match, you will be rewarded with 2,000 spirit stones. If you win 5 matches in a row, you will be rewarded with a foundation establishment pill. If you win 10 matches in a row, you will be able to choose one of the 3-tier pill, weapon, and talisman array inheritances. If there are casualties among the Foundation establishment cultivators, the injured will be compensated with 2 to 10,000 spirit stones, and the dead will be compensated with 30,000 spirit stones. Of course, strength must also be guaranteed. The sect will test the strength of the participants, and only those who pass the test will be able to participate. Spirit stone mines were formed by spirit veins, which produced large amounts of spirit chi to nourish the nearby stones. More and more spirit chi would be stored in the stones, and over time, they would turn into spirit stones. There were many factors that affected the quality of a spirit stone. The grade of the spirit vein, the distance between the spirit stone and the spirit vein, and the original quality of the spirit stone could all affect the grade of a spirit stone. The spirit veins in the immortal cultivation world were not static. New spirit veins were often born, and old spirit veins were often exhausted. If a spirit vein existed for a long time, it was possible to leave behind a spirit stone mine. However, even if a spirit vein that had not been exhausted produced a spirit stone mine, no one would be willing to dig out the spirit stones, as that would easily ruin the spirit vein. The spirit stone mine was located at the edge of Darkwater County, which was originally Trinity River County. There were 13 counties in Zhao. After the 3 great sects succeeded in their rebellion, they divided the territory of Zhao. Apart from Trinity River County, the Myriad Spirit sect occupied 5 counties south of the Wanchuan River. Of the 7 counties north of the Wanchuan River, the Netherworld sect occupied 4 and the Crescent Sun Palace occupied 3. Trinity River County was where the former capital of Zhao was located. It spanned the north and south of the river, suppressing several surrounding counties, and its territory was also the largest. Any sect that obtained Trinity River County could easily attack the other 2 sects' nests. Therefore, the 3 great sects divided Trinity River County into 3 parts. The southern part of the river belonged to the Myriad Spirit sect. The northern part of the river, the western part of the Darkwater River Basin belonged to the Crescent Sun Palace, and the eastern part of the Darkwater River Basin belonged to the Netherworld sect. The 4 counties that the Netherworld sect obtained were Qingli County, Heang County, Guanyuan County, and Guanshan County. Guanshan County was located upstream of the Darkwater River, and the Netherworld sect's main gate was in Guanshan County. After the 3 great sects finished dividing the spoils, the Netherworld sect changed Guanshan County to Darkwater County, and incorporated part of Trinity River County into Darkwater County. The other 2 great sects also incorporated Trinity River County into other counties, and the 13 counties of Zhao became 12. Chapter 249. After Yang Yong finished speaking, he looked at Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan. His meaning was very clear. He wanted the Wang family to take the lead and make a statement. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui pretended not to see. Only idiots would agree to a duel with the Cruel Sun Palace. Once the Wang family appeared, the Cruel Sun Palace people's eyes turned red. Casualties were unavoidable. Although the Wang family needed the rank 3 pill talisman inheritance, it wasn't important enough to exchange their lives for it. Yang Yong glanced at Meng Changfeng. Although Meng Changfeng didn't have foresight, he still had self-awareness. He was only at the 3rd level of foundation establishment, and the Meng family's inheritance was also very ordinary. Meng Changfeng wasn't outstanding among cultivators of the same level. Dueling with the Cruel Sun Palace cultivators of the same level was suicide. He could only pretend not to see. The other families naturally didn't want to get involved. How could the inheritance of the 3 sects be compared to ordinary people? If a family cultivator went up, the probability of winning was very low, not to mention winning 5 rounds in a row. So, if they went to fight, they would be cannon fodder. Who would be so free as to send themselves to death? Yang Yong couldn't continue speaking. He said unhappily, "Everyone go back and discuss. Rank 3 inheritances aren't easy to get, but foundation establishment pills aren't difficult." After the birthday banquet, everyone dispersed. Wang Daoyuan called Yun Yi and left Giant Wood Peak with his parents and 12th uncle. After sending his parents back to Clear Creek Village, the two returned to Jade Spring Peak. Wang Shui pulled Wang Daoyuan into the ancestral shrine and asked, "Daoyuan, how could you bear to give the inky jade lotus as a gift? The Netherworld sect is in a hurry to find the source of Yin energy. Aren't you asking for trouble? Also, the inky jade lotus didn't come from Mirror Treasure Lake, right? Many years ago, you asked fourth brother and seventh brother to identify a lotus leaf. That leaf was the inky jade lotus." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "I still have lotus seeds. Naturally, I've thought about it carefully before giving them as a gift. The Netherworld sect doesn't have a source of Yin energy, so they can maintain restraint for a short time. But if they don't recover for a few years, their Yin energy reserves will be depleted. The higher-ups might do something risky. To our Wang family, the more stable the Zhao country is, the better. Once the Underworld sect is in despair and starts a war with the cruel Sun Palace, or simply kills people to refine their souls to obtain Yin Qi, our Wang family will also be implicated. This was to give them some hope so that they would not take the risk. As for the Black Jade Serene Lotus, it was indeed not from the Treasure Mirror Lake. I still have some lotus seeds here. Fifth granduncle, you can try to establish your Violet Palace. Even if you fail and damage your soul, I can guarantee that you will recover quickly. Wang Shui sighed and said, "What you said makes sense. Since it's yours, I don't care anymore." After saying that, he left the ancestral shrine. Wang Daoyuan had sent the lotus seeds not only to stabilize the Netherworld sect, but also to borrow the Netherworld sect's hands to deal with Chen Ji. The secret realm where the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master had passed away was in the vicinity of the Jewel Mirror Lake. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan was not lying. There was indeed a source of Yin Qi there. The Yin Qi secret realm was of no use to him. Now that he had the Gui Water Nether Flame, as long as there was water attribute spiritual energy or spiritual items, the Gui Water Nether Flame could continuously produce Yin Qi and spring water with spiritual energy. Spiritual fire was equivalent to a miniature spirit vein, and a relatively high-grade one. The amount of spiritual energy produced was small, but the concentration was high. The concentration of pure Yin Qi and water attribute spiritual energy produced by the Gui Water Nether Flame was comparable to a high-grade third-grade spirit vein. But without the support of the Gui Water Nether Spring, the total amount of Yin Qi produced was only enough to nurture a dozen black jade serene lotuses. This pure Yin Qi was enough for Wang Daoyuan. The secret realm where the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master had passed away was more suitable for evil cultivators. It was useless for the Wang family to obtain it. And if Chen Ji was not dealt with, he would always be an unstable factor. From Qi Yun's memories, he knew that Chen Ji had the insights left behind by the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master, which included the process of the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master improving the doppelganger soul nurturing technique. With these insights, he might be able to perfect the doppelganger soul nurturing technique in the future. The complete version of the doppelganger soul nurturing technique was also useful for the soul of Zifu realm cultivators. It was much stronger than the black jade serene lotus. Moreover, the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master came from another cultivation world. His insights might have recorded the route to Beiyuan Shoshin. Beiyuan Shoshin was no longer enough to support cultivators to break through Yuanying. If they wanted to pursue a higher realm, they had to go out. If they wanted to get the insights left by the 10,000 Corpses spiritual master, they had to kill Chen Ji. And Chen Ji had many refined corpses. To raise corpses, he needed a lot of Yin Qi. Therefore, Chen Ji definitely put a lot of refined corpses in the secret realm. Once the people of the Netherworld sect found the vicinity of the secret realm, they would definitely have a conflict with Chen Ji. Chen Ji was cunning and had a lot of refined corpses with him. He would not be easily killed. With his ability, it would be difficult to gain an advantage in the hands of the Netherworld sect. In this way, his refined corpses would be lost, and his strength would be weakened. If he went to find trouble with him in the future, his chances of winning would be much higher. If the Netherworld sect was lucky and could find the entrance to the secret realm, their strength would increase. The Wang clan was now a subordinate force of the Netherworld sect. The Netherworld sect was stronger, so the Wanyang Palace and the Myriad Spirits sect did not dare to act rashly. The Zhao clan would also delay their action, and the situation would be stable for a longer time. Stability was the most important thing for the Wang clan. Using the Yin Qi secret realm that was useless to them as bait to stabilize the Netherworld sect and weaken Qinji, they would not lose out no matter how they looked at it. Wang Daoyuan also left the ancestral shrine and returned to his cave residence to continue cultivating. He had nothing to do in the short term. It was better to improve his cultivation as soon as possible and reach the late foundation establishment stage as soon as possible to take over Fallen Dragon Ridge. He wanted to cultivate peacefully and not cause trouble, but trouble came knocking on his door. More than 10 days after Yang Yang's birthday, a huge eagle-type demon beast came to Jade Spring Peak. Not long after the giant eagle entered the Wang clan's territory, Wang Daoyuan received a report from Jin Yi. After a quarter of an hour, the giant eagle came to a place more than 10 miles away from Jade Spring Peak. It did not fly above Jade Spring Peak, but kept a distance of more than 10 miles from Jade Spring Peak and circled around it. This was the etiquette of cultivators visiting a mountain. Without the permission of the master, one could not fly directly above the spiritual mountain by sword or flying demon beast. Wang Daoyuan walked out of his cave residence and shouted, "Which Daoyu is visiting?" Hearing Wang Daoyuan's voice, Wang Shui also ended his closed-door cultivation and walked out of his cave residence. At this time, a voice came from the back of the giant eagle. "Luo Hongming of the Netherworld sect is here to visit the mountain." He came uninvited. "Please forgive Daoyu of the Wang clan." Hearing this, Wang Shui replied, "Luo Daoyu, please come to the mountain for a chat." The giant eagle slowly landed. Wang Daoyuan only felt that this giant eagle's cultivation was unfathomable. It was at least a third-rank demon beast. A young cultivator came down from the giant eagle's back and cupped his hands towards Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan. "Luo Hongming of the Netherworld sect greets Daoyu." This person was in the late stage of foundation establishment. Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan did not dare to be arrogant and hurriedly returned the greeting. Moreover, this person's surname was Luo. He was most likely a disciple of the master of the Netherworld sect. The two of them led Luo Hongming into the hall and took their seats. Wang Shui cupped his hands and said, "May I know what brings Daoyu here?" Luo Hongming returned the greeting and said, "It's nothing important. My Netherworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace will have a duel in half a year. My granduncle asked me to come and ask about the Wang clan's attitude." Wang Daoyuan asked, "May I know which senior of the Netherworld sect your granduncle is?" Luo Hongming smiled and said, "My granduncle is the master of the Netherworld sect." Hearing this, the two of them changed their expressions. Wang Shui immediately said, "I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you." Chapter 250. Luo Hongming waved his hand. "There's no need to be so reserved. Granduncle only sent me to ask about the Wang clan's attitude, not to give an order." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. "Young Master Luo, the people participating in this duel between the Underworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace will definitely be the elites of the two sections. My Wang clan is just a foundation establishment clan. How can we compete with the Cruel Sun Palace's direct disciples?" Luo Hongming smiled. "Daoyu must be joking. If someone else says they can't compete with the Cruel Sun Palace, it's still reasonable. But if the Wang clan says they can't compete with the Cruel Sun Palace, then they're being too modest. Back then, the Wang clan ancestor killed the Cruel Sun Palace's Grand Elder. It's not an exaggeration to say that the Wang clan's inheritance is the Cruel Sun Palace's nemesis." Wang Shui continued, "Young Master Luo, you're too kind. The same cultivation method and spell can have completely different effects when used by different people. Although the art of overturned seed that the ancestor cultivated was also a golden core cultivation method, it was far inferior to the direct disciples of the three sections. Being able to kill enemies above his level was due to the ancestors' outstanding talent. Our descendants are incompetent. In terms of talent, they can't even compare to the ancestor. In terms of combat, the strongest in the Wang clan should be me and Daoyuan. Although I also cultivate the art of overturned sea, my combat ability is far inferior to the ancestors. Daoyuan doesn't cultivate the art of overturned sea, so his water dragon art is far inferior to mine. If the two of us can't kill enemies above our level, the other clansmen won't be able to do it either. Luo Hongming stopped smiling. Dao Yu may not be as strong as the Wang clan ancestor, but it's still easy for him to defeat the Cruel Sun Palace's foundation establishment cultivators. To be honest, the Cruel Sun Palace's direct disciples' cultivation method is somewhat restrained by the Cruel Sun Palace. For many years, the Cruel Sun Palace has suppressed the Netherworld sect. If the Wang clan ancestor hadn't killed 5 golden core cultivators of the Cruel Sun Palace back then, I'm afraid the Cruel Sun sect wouldn't be able to stay above the Cruel Sun Palace. This time, the Cruel Sun Palace has many cultivators of the 3 attributes. Among the mid-stage foundation establishment cultivators, one is a Thunder Sword cultivator. He's extremely talented, reaching the 6th level of foundation establishment. The Netherworld sect's cultivation method was most afraid of thunder techniques, and there was no cultivator in the sect who could fight against it. The cultivators of the Wang clan had always been good at fighting, which was why they had come to ask the cultivators of the Wang clan to fight. He hoped that the Wang clan could produce an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Of course, the sect wouldn't let Wang Zhebai do it for free. As long as the Wang clan agreed to participate in the duel, the rewards for the Wang clan cultivators would be doubled. In addition, no matter how the Wang clan cultivators perform in battle, the Netherworld sect will help Wang Daolong reach the foundation establishment stage and allow him to become the disciple of a Violet Palace realm uncle of mine. There was no need for the Wang family to give me an answer now. 3 days later, Elder Yang would summon all the families to participate in the duel in Clear Glass City. The Wang family could just reply then. I still have important matters to attend to, so it's not convenient for me to stay. Farewell. With that said, Luo Hongming stood up and left. The two of them sent him off until he was 30 miles away from the Jade Spring Peak. Wang Daolong was the leader of the Dao generation, Wang Daoyuan's eldest brother. He had joined the Underworld sect since he was young, and he was exactly 70 years old. After seeing the guests off, the two of them went to the ancestral temple to discuss this matter. Wang Shi asked, Dao Yuan, you're very resourceful. Do you have any other plans? Wang Daoyuan shook his head and smiled bitterly. 12th uncle, even you don't have any ideas. What can I do? The grandnephew of the Underworld sect master brought a rank 3 demonic beast to visit. They doubled the rewards and helped Big Brother reach the foundation establishment stage. They even want Big Brother to become the disciple of a Violet Palace realm cultivator of the Luo clan. Our Wang clan will be a direct descendant of the Underworld sect in the future. Even the families established by Violet Palace realm elders don't have this kind of treatment. The courtesy has already reached the limit, and the toast has already been served to us. If we don't agree, then we'll be refusing a toast, and the punishment will be served soon. Wang Shui sighed and said, it's not up to us. The strongest in the early foundation establishment stage is Dao Xing. You, me, and Dao Chang are in the middle foundation establishment stage. Your cultivation is lower than mine, and you'll have to fight that lightning-attributed sword cultivator. Let me go. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, when I was at the 3rd level of foundation establishment, I defeated a 6th level foundation establishment sword cultivator. Before returning, I was blocked by a 7th level foundation establishment cultivator, a 3rd level foundation establishment cultivator, and a bone vulture that was about to break through to the high grade of the 2nd level. I killed the 3rd level foundation establishment cultivator, and severely injured the 7th level foundation establishment cultivator and the bone vulture. If it wasn't for the fact that the 7th level foundation establishment cultivator was still useful, both of them would have died. And I defeated them only using the cloud mist escape and a technique I learned after going to the north of the mountain. 12th uncle, do you think you're a match for me? Wang Shui answered helplessly, if I met a 6th level foundation establishment cultivator, I could win now. But at the 3rd level foundation establishment stage, I definitely had no chance of survival. If I met a 7th level foundation establishment cultivator and a bone vulture that was about to break through to the high grade of the 2nd level, even if I used all my strength, I'd have to pay a heavy price to win. In terms of fighting, I'm indeed inferior to you. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, since you've agreed, then you can go and declare your position 3 days later. I'll go to the sky/mountain range to continue harming demon beasts. Half a year's time is enough for me to refine a few techniques. If I don't want to expose all my trump cards, I'll have to go and hone my skills. After saying this, he left the jade spring peak on his sword and flew towards the east. The Netherworld sect master had personally sent someone to invite him to participate in this duel. Regardless of the results, his big brother Wang Daolong would be able to enter the foundation establishment stage and become a disciple of the Luo clan. But if the Wang clan's results were too poor, it would be hard to avoid being punished afterwards. If they participated in the duel, they would have to win at least 5 matches in a row to avoid being punished. There wasn't much hope in counting on Wang Daoxing. Although Wang Daoxing was a body refiner, his fighting strength was very strong. But the Cruel Sun sect was famous for body refinement and had a mature inheritance system. It was much stronger than his lustrous golden body art. If Wang Daoxing went out, it would be good if he could win 1 or 2 matches. If he wanted to win 5 matches in a row, he would have to rely on himself. If necessary, he would have to expose some of his trump cards. The trump cards that he absolutely couldn't expose were the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, soul extinguishing bell, earth divine lightning, and the special spiritual energy of the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique. If he had no other choice, the only trump card he could expose was the golden rock wrestling dragon technique. Thus, he could only use whip techniques, sword cultivation techniques, the meteor fall technique, and his family's techniques. With the combination of whip techniques and cloud escape, it was easy to bully a body refiner. But against a sword cultivator, it was really useless. This whip technique was only created by the 5 elements Taoist when he was at the foundation establishment stage. It was imitating a sword cultivator and pursued speed. Against a real sword cultivator, speed had no advantage. Among the middle foundation establishment stage disciples of large sects, who didn't have powerful techniques, even if they used all 5 elements, they wouldn't have any advantage. The water dragon technique was even worse. He didn't cultivate the art of overturning sea, so the water dragon technique's power wasn't enough. The main methods he used against the enemy were the cloud escape, sword cultivation techniques, and the meteor fall technique. As for the problem of his special spiritual energy, it was very easy to solve. For example, before using the cloud escape, he could convert the metal-type spiritual energy into water-type spiritual energy without using the water-type spiritual energy seed. There was nothing special about the water-type spiritual energy that was converted this way. When using the cloud escape, the clouds and mist would still be white. Before the battle, he would suppress the spiritual energy seed and then convert all the spiritual energy in the 5 elements into their own attributes according to the order of the 5 elements. In this way, all the spiritual energy in his body would be ordinary spiritual energy and wouldn't have the characteristics of spiritual fire. Chapter 251. Wang Daoyuan knew that he wasn't suited to walk the path of a sword cultivator, and he didn't expect his sword cultivation to reach Li Qingchuan's level. The biggest advantage of a sword cultivator's spells was that they were fast, but the power didn't matter. In the next half a year, he would strive to reach Li Qingchuan's level in casting spells and be able to use them freely. Although he could take down a normal 7th or 8th level foundation establishment cultivator, his opponent wasn't an ordinary opponent. The elite disciples of large sects were usually at least direct disciples of Zifu realm cultivators. The exceptional ones might even cultivate the inheritance of a golden core cultivator, or even be personally taught by a golden core cultivator. Furthermore, he was a lightning cultivator and a sword cultivator. If he had one of these three identities, it wouldn't be easy to deal with him, but this kid had all three. He had his trump cards, but the disciples of large sects didn't lack powerful spells either. The Wang clan only had one golden core cultivator, and they had the Cloud Mist Escape and the Water Dragon technique. The Savage Sun Palace was a large sect with thousands of years of history. Every generation had around 10 golden core cultivators, so how could they not have their trump cards? The Savage Sun Palace definitely had plenty of escape techniques like the Cloud Mist Escape. His cultivation was one level lower than Wang Daoyuan's, so even if he used his full strength, his chances of winning weren't high, not to mention that he had to hide part of his strength. When it came to the duel, he would try his best to win against those who weren't sword cultivators. It would be fine as long as he could endure 5 consecutive victories. If he encountered a lightning cultivator at the 6th level of Foundation establishment, he could just surrender and leave. After arriving at Linji Mountain, he found the Thunder Ape and asked it to lead the way to find some high-grade Tier 2 demonic beasts to practice with. He really didn't dare to provoke Fallen Dragon Ridge, which was a large group of demonic beasts. If he fought with a demonic beast, it would cause a huge commotion and he would be easily surrounded by the surrounding demonic beasts. The Thunder Ape had been causing trouble in Linji Mountain for more than 10 years, bullying the nearby demonic beasts all day long. Therefore, no one knew the standards of the surrounding demonic beasts better than the Thunder Ape. After explaining his request to the Thunder Ape brought him towards the southeast. The man and the ape walked for more than 1,000 miles and arrived at a forest. According to the Thunder Ape, there was a spirit fruit in the forest that he needed to brew wine. However, this forest was the territory of a high-grade Tier 2 demonic beast, so it wasn't confident of winning, so it didn't rashly look for trouble. The demonic beast in this forest was a level 2 upper-grade saber-toothed leopard. Leopard-type demonic beasts were not bad in terms of speed and agility. On the other hand, the saber-toothed leopard's innate spell was to use its 2 fangs to release sword chi to attack its enemies. Its attack range could reach up to 3,000 feet, which was comparable to the attack range of a Foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword. Moreover, the saber-toothed leopard's attack speed was very fast. It was a great threat to Wang Daoyuan. It was an excellent opponent. Arriving in front of the forest, the Thunder Ape let out a long howl towards the sky. Soon, the roar of a leopard could be heard from the forest. In just 4 or 5 breaths of time, a black shadow rushed out of the forest. After the black shadow stopped, Wang Daoyuan was finally able to see what it looked like. In front of him was a pure black leopard. Its body was only a little more than 10 feet long, and it had a tail that was even longer than its body. The 2 fangs in his mouth were about a foot long, like 2 short swords. Furthermore, this saber-toothed leopard's cultivation level was slightly higher. It was already comparable to a human Foundation establishment level 9 cultivator. Even if it was an ordinary Foundation establishment level 9 cultivator, Wang Daoyuan would not have the confidence to win. This saber-toothed leopard's fighting strength was much stronger than ordinary Foundation establishment level 9 cultivators. Its only flaw was that it could not fly. Otherwise, Wang Daoyuan would not have dared to find trouble with it. The saber-toothed leopard stared at Wang Daoyuan and the Thunder Ape, and let out a warning growl. It was also not confident that it could take down a human and an ape. It was best if they did not fight. Wang Daoyuan was here to train. If the saber-toothed leopard did not make a move, he would not be polite. He took out the golden-edged sword and used the myriad sword art. In just 5 breaths of time, he used his sword chi to condense 50 to 60 long sword phantoms. Compared to Li Qingchuan, who only used 1 breath of time, the difference was still very big. Wang Daoyuan controlled a long sword phantoms and attacked the saber-toothed leopard. As a leopard-type demonic beast, the saber-toothed leopard was extremely agile. When the long sword phantoms attacked, it only needed to twist its body to easily avoid them. Wang Daoyuan would not let it continue to be relaxed. He continued to control the long sword phantoms and attacked it. The saber-toothed leopard's agility was far beyond Wang Daoyuan's expectations. It only needed to move its feet and jump a few times to avoid all the long sword phantoms. Seeing this, Wang Daoyuan was dumbfounded. He had to use the smoke escape to barely avoid the attack, but the saber-toothed leopard easily dodged it. After the saber-toothed leopard dodged all the long sword phantoms, there was a violent fluctuation of spirit energy from its fangs. In just half a breath of time, it released 4 sword chi. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the smoke escape to avoid the sword chi. The 4 sword chi hit the rock, leaving a 5 to 6 foot deep sword mark. Seeing this power, Wang Daoyuan was glad that he did not use the black tortoise sword shield. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured. Just as he stopped, another 4 sword chi attacked him. He could only continue to use the smoke escape to escape. Seeing that the saber-toothed leopard was not paying attention to it, the thunder ape quietly entered the forest. After dodging more than 10 sword chi, the saber-toothed leopard saw that it could not hit him. It stopped releasing sword chi and turned to charge at him. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the water dragon technique and condensed a water dragon armor to protect his body. He also did not use any techniques to fight the saber-toothed leopard in close combat. The saber-toothed leopard's sword chi was very destructive and its body was very agile. However, its physical strength was not very strong. Its claws scratched Wang Daoyuan's body, but it could not break through the water dragon armor. It opened its mouth and bit at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to take those 1-foot-long fangs head-on. He used the golden-edged sword to slash at its fangs. The sound of metal colliding rang out. The saber-toothed leopard's physical strength was not strong. It was swept away several feet by the sword. Its fangs took the golden-edged sword head-on, but it was not damaged at all. The saber-toothed leopard charged again. It did not fight Wang Daoyuan head-on. Instead, it kept dodging the sword and waiting for an opportunity to sneak attack with its fangs. Wang Daoyuan's speed was not as fast as the saber-toothed leopard. When it deliberately dodged, Wang Daoyuan could not hit it at all. The saber-toothed leopard used its fangs to attack at close range. Its speed was even faster than sword chi. Wang Daoyuan was not as agile as it and was bitten a few times. Even the water dragon armor was bitten through. If it was not for the protection of the turtle dragon armor, he would have been seriously injured. If he continued to fight in close combat, he would not be able to hold on for long. At this moment, the thunder ape rushed out of the forest with a pile of red fruits and roared at the saber-toothed leopard. The saber-toothed leopard was fighting Wang Daoyuan alone. It had dragged on for a long time. Now, the thunder ape was here. It was not confident that it could win 1 against 2. It immediately shook off Wang Daoyuan and turned to escape into the forest. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to give chase. He was not a match for the saber-toothed leopard outside the forest. Now that he was in its territory, it would be easier for the saber-toothed leopard to hide. He was even less of a match for it. Since the thunder ape had succeeded, he did not return empty-handed. The man and the ape left the forest and returned to Linji Mountain. The red fruits that the thunder ape found were one of the ingredients for brewing wine. Wang Daoyuan naturally wanted to plant some. He used 2 caddies of scarlet blood wine to exchange for 5 fruits. The fruit was blood red and shaped like a heart. It was an upper-grade tier 2 spirit fruit, dragon heart fruit. The purpose of this fruit was to strengthen the heart and blood. If the heart and blood were strong, the body would naturally not be weak. Therefore, the dragon heart fruit was loved by body-tempering cultivators. Since the thunder ape used the dragon heart fruit to brew wine, the spirit wine that it brewed should mainly be used to strengthen the body. Wang Daoyuan did not eat the 5 dragon heart fruits. Instead, he placed them in the space of the spirit pearl and handed them to his clone to handle. There were many seeds in the dragon heart fruits that could be used for planting. Even if it was not used for brewing wine, the dragon heart fruit had some effect on strengthening the body. It would be good to plant some. Chapter 252. In the following 5 months, Wang Daoyuan followed the Thunder Ape to the surrounding spirit veins to find high-grade second-rank demonic beasts to practice with. Wang Daoyuan held back the demonic beasts while the Thunder Ape took the opportunity to steal spirit fruits and spirit herbs. In these 5 months, Wang Daoyuan's spells had greatly improved. The Golden Rock Seizing Dragon technique only needed 6 or 7 breaths of time to cast. The Golden Rock's wingspan was more than 200 feet and it could condense 1,000 feather blades at once. The lethality of a feather blade was about 3 times that of a mid-grade second-rank golden saber talisman. If he cast all the feather blades at once, his spirit power would be completely exhausted. Perhaps because the spell was incomplete, the number of feather blades that could be condensed after reaching 1,000 was considered the limit. He cultivated for a long time and could only increase the power of 1 feather blade. He could not increase the number of feather blades. The speed of his sword cultivation spells also caught up with Li Qingchuan. The myriad sword art only needed 1 breath of time to cast. And he could only condense a long sword shadow at a time. It could be cast instantly and its power was about twice that of a mid-grade second-rank golden saber talisman. The sky-severing sword could be cast in 3 breaths of time. Its length was still about 250 feet. Its power did not increase significantly. It was just that his control was much stronger and he could command it like an extension of his arm. The meteor fall technique also reached the level of 3 in 2 breaths. Its power also did not increase by much. His goal was to rely on speed to defeat his opponent. If he did not use his trump card, it would be very difficult to compete with the disciples of the cruel Sun Pillar. There was still a month left before the duel. Those who participated in the duel first needed to go to Clearly Market to take the test. Those who did not pass would be eliminated and replaced by other people of the same clan. The Wang clan's participants were him and his second brother Wang Daoxing. Wang Daoxing had been guarding Linji Mountain. The two left Linji Mountain together and headed to Clearly Market. When they arrived at the headquarters of the Netherworld sect in Clearly Market, someone led them to a spacious courtyard. This courtyard seemed to be a place for cultivators to practice. The ground and walls were all made of hard rock. There were 3 cultivators wearing the black uniform of the Netherworld sect in the courtyard. The 3 of them held swords and stood in 3 different directions. At the entrance of the courtyard stood a dozen people. These people were all Foundation establishment cultivators wearing the uniforms of various clans. The Yang family and the Liang family had also sent people over. These people were all here to participate in the test. There was something wrong with this number. The Underworld sect had sent out 60 Foundation building cultivators in total. With the 4 counties split evenly, Qingli County only had 15 spots. The northern part of Qingli County should have 5 spots. Why did the northern part of Qingli County have more than 10 people? After waiting for a short while, Yang Yong arrived at the courtyard and announced, "Because we have to deal with the surviving members of the Zhao clan, the 3 great sects cannot expend too much strength." The original plan of 60 Zifu disciples from each side was changed to 9 Zifu disciples from each side. As compensation, the number of Foundation establishment cultivators participating in the duel would be doubled. Now, it was time to test the strength of the participating Foundation establishment cultivators. These 3 were the elite disciples of the Underworld School. Their cultivations were respectively in the early stage, middle stage, and late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. If the 10 of you can last 30 breaths against a disciple of the same cultivation level, you will pass. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, since the elite disciples of the Netherworld sect are so strong, why don't they directly participate in the war? Instead, they choose from the various families. It's obvious that they want to weaken the strength of the subordinate families. It wasn't easy for Zifu disciples to find scapegoats, which was why the number of participating Zifu disciples had been reduced. There were plenty of scapegoats among the Foundation establishment cultivators. Naturally, the number of scapegoats had to be increased. The Netherworld sect's methods of swindling their subordinate powers were truly gaudy. Perhaps the reason why the Netherworld sect was willing to spend so much to have their own families participate in the war was because they wanted their own cultivators to attract the enemy's firepower. None of the 10 or so Foundation establishment cultivators were willing to exchange blows with the elite disciples of the Netherworld sect. They all stood at the entrance to the courtyard, not daring to enter. The middle Foundation establishment elite disciple of the Netherworld sect pointed at Wang Daoyuan and said arrogantly, "That cultivator of the Wang clan came out to exchange blows. In order to invite your Wang clan to fight, senior apprentice brother Luo had to personally make a trip. I want to see what ability your Wang clan has." Wang Daoyuan walked directly into the courtyard, clasping his hands and saying, "Dare I ask this senior apprentice brother's esteemed name?" The middle Foundation establishment cultivator said disdainfully, "My surname is Jin. I am Elder Jin's great-grandson. As for my name, you don't have the qualifications to know it." Wang Daoyuan's face was full of smiles. Although he looked harmless, in his heart, he was very happy. If this kid was from the local branch or the clan, he would have to show him mercy and give him some face. He didn't expect this kid to be from the foreign branch and the Jin clan. That year outside the Gold Geese City, Jin Yugue humiliated the Wang clan and the Li clan. The Wang clan didn't have the strength to take revenge. He didn't expect that now he would have a chance to take revenge. This kid surnamed Jin should prepare to lie down and go home. Wang Daoyuan took out the Jin Feng sword and walked forward. The cultivator surnamed Jin swung his sword, and a black sword light flew towards Wang Daoyuan. This sword light carried an evil aura. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't take it head-on. The spiritual power on his sword surged, forming a long sword shadow. The long sword shadow flew out and collided with the sword light. The sword light was directly cut in half, and the long sword shadow continued to slash towards the cultivator surnamed Jin. The cultivator surnamed Jin waved his sword and shattered the long sword shadow. He said disdainfully, "Still a sword cultivator. Unfortunately, your strength isn't much." Saying so, he threw the sword in his hand, which turned into a black viper and flew towards Wang Daoyuan. This sword is a bit similar to the Tiger Soul in Fiend banner. Both of them use a magic tool to nurture a demon beast's soul and borrow it to fight. However, his sword is more advanced. The demon beast's soul and the magic tool are fused into one, the weapon and soul combined, greatly increasing its power. There's not enough time to use meteor fall, a single long sword shadow can't stop it. He can only use cloud mist escape to avoid the viper's attack. The sword in his hand surged with spiritual power, forming dozens of long sword shadows in a single breath. The black viper missed, then turned around and continued to fly towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan controlled all the long sword shadows to attack the black viper. A breath later, the dozens of long swords and the black viper clashed. This viper's soul uses the sword as its body, so it's extremely strong. Even when it clashed with the long sword shadows, it didn't suffer any damage. After destroying all the long sword shadows, the viper's spiritual power was exhausted. It turned back into a long sword and returned to the hand of the cultivator surnamed Jin. Only 10 breaths of time have passed, it's not time to end yet. Wang Daoyuan poured a large amount of metal-type spiritual power into the long sword. 3 breaths later, a 25 long giant sword shadow suddenly appeared. Wang Daoyuan swung the sword, sweeping it towards the cultivator surnamed Jin. The cultivator surnamed Jin took out a black shield. The giant sword shadow hit it, but the shield turned into a tortoise shadow. Another magic tool with a demon beast soul. This tortoise demon beast seems to be quite extraordinary. The giant sword shadow slashed forward, but was blocked by the tortoise shell. The impact of the collision wasn't small. The giant sword shadow was shaken away, and the cultivator surnamed Jin was also pushed back a few meters by the impact. The giant sword shadow only dimmed a bit. Wang Daoyuan continued to attack, swinging the sword downwards. The cultivator surnamed Jin raised the shield above his head, taking the blow head-on. As the sword came down from above, he couldn't block it, so the full impact of the collision hit him. After the collision, Wang Daoyuan was pushed back a few steps, while the cultivator surnamed Jin coughed up a mouthful of blood. The giant sword's shadow was already transparent, but it still wasn't broken. Wang Daoyuan swung the sword again. The cultivator surnamed Jin turned into a puff of black smoke, disappearing from where he stood. When the sword hit the ground, the giant sword's shadow shattered, but only left a shallow mark on the ground. The cultivator surnamed Jin's escape technique wasn't inferior to cloud mist escape. After half a breath, he appeared a few dozen meters away. There's still less than 30 breaths left, there's still a chance to attack again. Wang Daoyuan's sword spirit energy fluctuated violently again. Chapter 253. Yang Yong also knew about the conflict between the Jin and Wang family. He immediately advised, Daoyuan, you have already passed the test. There is no need to compete anymore. Even if he didn't give face to the monk, he still had to give face to the Buddha. Since Yang Yong had personally spoken, he still had to give face to him. Wang Daoyuan stopped casting spells, but the cultivator surnamed Jin was still unconvinced. Yang Yong was afraid that he would look for trouble again, so he quickly said, I used to think that Daoyuan was only good with the whip. I didn't expect that he had also learned the spells of swordsmanship. Wang Daoyuan knew what he was trying to do. He wanted to scare the guy surnamed Jin and prevent the two of them from continuing to fight. Thus, he replied, it's just a spar. There's no need to use my true abilities. I'll use some of my newly learned spells to ask senior martial brother Jin for advice. When the cultivator surnamed Jin heard this, he knew that Wang Daoyuan still had some tricks up his sleeves. Even if he used his family's secret technique, he might not necessarily win. If he were to continue fighting, he would still be defeated even if he were to use his clan's secret art. If that happened, not only would he lose face, but his entire family would also lose face. He didn't want to fight anymore, so he swallowed a healing pill and sat down to recover. The cultivator surnamed Jin could not fight for the time being, so the other two cultivators from the Netherworld sect had to take the test first. Next, Wang Daoxing attacked. The person in charge of testing him was a cultivator from the Netherworld sect. Wang Daoxing's strength was too strong, so the two of them did not overdo it. Not long after, all the early and late Foundation establishment cultivators finished their tests. Everyone passed. The Netherworld sect only looked for cultivators from their clan to be scapegoats. The main force was still the cultivators of their own sect, so it was fine as long as the scapegoats weren't too weak. The other middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were even more miserable. The cultivator surnamed Jin was beaten up by Wang Daoyuan and lost a lot of face. He did not dare to find trouble with Wang Daoyuan, so he could only vent his anger on the other cultivators. Using his family's secret arts one after another, he tortured the other middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators to an extremely miserable state. However, he had a sense of propriety and allowed all the cultivators to pass the test. It was just that they were all heavily injured. After the participating cultivators finished their tests, everyone returned to their respective homes. 20 days later, they officially set off. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing didn't run around either. They cultivated in their family's shop. 20 days later, more than 10 people arrived at the entrance of the Netherworld sect's headquarters in Clear Glass Market. Not long after everyone arrived, Yang Yong came in front of everyone, took out a half-foot-long flying boat magic tool from his storage bag. After injecting spiritual energy into it, the flying boat rapidly expanded, eventually reaching a length of more than 30 meters and a width of 30 to 40 meters. The cultivators participating in the battle boarded the flying ship and headed west. About 20,000 miles to the west of Qingli City, one would reach the border between Guanshan Prefecture and Guanyuan Prefecture. Guanyuan Prefecture was the smallest prefecture in the state of Zhao. It was only half the size of Qingli Prefecture. However, apart from Trinity River County, it was the most important county in the Zhao country. Guanyuan Prefecture's terrain was low-lying and the land was flat. There was plenty of water and spirit veins, and spirit fields were everywhere. 1/3 of the spirit fields in the state of Zhao were in Guangyuan Prefecture. Darkwater Commandery surrounded Guangyuan Commandery from the west and north. Directly to the north was the territory of Guanshan Commandery. There were mountains and valleys, and very few flat lands could be seen. The terrain was dangerous, and it was the northern barrier between Guangyuan Commandery and Sanha Commandery. The location of the battle was at the western border of Darkwater Commandery, northwest of Guangyuan Commandery, and the northernmost tip of Trinity River County. It was about 40,000 miles away from Qingli City. Riding a Grade 3 flying ship, the speed was very fast, and they arrived in a little more than a day. The location of the battle was next to the Spirit Stone mine that the two sects were fighting over. Everyone arrived a few days in advance, so that they could get used to the venue. The mountain where the Spirit Stone mine was located was called Pine Elm Mountain. It was 1,000 miles to the west of Darkwater River, at the source of a small tributary. The mountain stretched for more than 200 miles, and the highest point was no more than 300 meters. The mountain was covered with spirit trees like pine and elm trees, hence the name. Pine Elm Mountain only had a small Grade 1 mid-grade spirit vein. Before the discovery of the Spirit Stone mine, there was no development value at all. Therefore, the two sects did not take Pine Elm Mountain seriously, and used it as the boundary mountain between the two sects' territories. Now that a sizable Spirit Stone mine had been discovered, neither side was willing to give in. When Wang Daoyuan and the rest arrived, there were already many cultivators participating in the battle. The battle was on a flat ground in the south of Pine Elm Mountain. This flat ground was 4 to 5 miles long and 3 miles wide. The cultivators of Cruel Sun Palace were stationed on the west side of the battleground, while the cultivators of Underworld sect were stationed on the east side. After the cultivators of both sides arrived, they first observed the venue. The Underworld sect had a rule that cultivators of the affiliated families had to wear the clothes of their own family. Wearing clothes without permission would be severely punished. Wang Daoyuan felt that this rule of the Underworld sect was specifically used to trick the Wang family, deliberately letting them attract the hatred of Cruel Sun Palace. Such a bad idea was definitely from the external branch of the Underworld sect, and it was very likely that Liang personally came up with it. As expected, the moment Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing appeared, the cultivators of Cruel Sun Palace turned red. It could not be helped, the Wang family's clothes had a bounty over at Cruel Sun Palace all year round, so the people of Cruel Sun Palace all knew the Wang family's clothes. A few cultivators of Cruel Sun Palace cursed at the Wang family, constantly provoking them, asking them to fight one-on-one. Wang Daoyuan naturally did not care about this little trick. What surprised him was that his second brother Wang Daoxing did not react. According to Wang Daoxing's temper, he should have rushed up at this time. Wang Daoyuan was ready to hold him down, but he did not move at all. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Second brother, what happened to you? According to your temper in the past, you should have rushed up directly." Wang Daoxing laughed, "I'm almost 70 years old, how can I not know anything? If I rushed up directly, I would definitely die and implicate the family. There's no use in arguing with this group of people. I've already remembered those who scolded the most fiercely. I won't let any of the early Foundation Establishment cultivators go, and you can't let the 2 middle Foundation Establishment cultivators go either." Wang Daoyuan patted his shoulder and said, "Second brother, with your words, you can take charge in the future." Wang Daoxing just smiled and did not say anything. The day of the duel arrived quickly. All the duels were arranged on this field and were not carefully divided. The order of the duels started from early Foundation establishment. The rules of the duel were also very simple. All methods could be used, but they could not exceed the realm. In other words, poisons, hidden weapons, spirit talismans, beast taming, corpse refining and all sorts of other methods could be used, but they must not exceed the user's cultivation realm. The grade of the external objects used by early Foundation establishment cultivators could not exceed the early second grade. The winner and loser were also very simple. One side died, went out of bounds and admitted defeat, and the duel would determine the winner. The winner could apply for an hour of rest before starting the next duel. Although this was a little slow, cultivators lived long lives and did not care about this time. The duel soon began. The early Foundation establishment cultivators of both sides came to the edge of the duel field, ready to fight. Of the 40 people on the Netherworld sect side, only 5 were from the main sect. The rest were from the subsidiary families. Half of the Cruel Sun Palace's side were from the main sect, while the Netherworld sect's cultivators were from the main sect. In terms of responsibility, the Netherworld sect was truly lacking. A third-level Foundation establishment cultivator of the Cruel Sun Palace ran to the center of the field and shouted towards the Netherworld sect side, "Cowards of the Jade Spring Wang clan, get over here and die." Wang Daoxing was just about to step forward when Wang Daoyuan took out more than 100 low-grade second-grade spirit talismans, saying, "If you can win, then fight. If you can't, then use the spirit talismans to smash him to death. I have plenty of spirit talismans here. Use as much as you want, no need to save them." Wang Daoxing accepted the spirit talismans and put them into his storage bag. He took out a door-sized greatsword and walked into the duel field. A Zifu disciple of the Myriad Spirit sect flew into the air above the duel field and announced the start of the duel. For the sake of fairness, the Myriad Spirit sect's cultivators were the referees. The referees were supervised by the cultivators of the Netherworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace. Wang Daoxing's opponent also walked the path of body refinement. He was also a metal-type cultivator and wielded a large saber. The two's battle was simple and unadorned. After each used a defensive spell, they swung their weapons at each other. Chapter 254. Although the battle moves were simple, the battle of words added a bit of fun to the battle. The cultivator of Cruel Sun Palace scolded, "Wang family's coward, you finally dare to show your face. See if I don't kill you to avenge my sect's elders." Wang Daoxing said in disdain, "In a head-on battle, your Cruel Sun Palace's elders bullied me with numbers and were even killed by my sect's patriarch. You juniors still have the face to talk about revenge? Everyone says that Cruel Sun Palace focuses on body refinement, but what you focus on is your face." The Underworld sect side laughed loudly and the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator's face was a little embarrassed. With every move, the two of them would scold each other. The Cruel Sun Palace cultivator had the advantage in terms of inheritance while Wang Daoxing had the advantage in terms of combat experience. The Cruel Sun Palace cultivator had clearly not experienced life and death battles. After being scolded by Wang Daoxing, he lost his mind and fought head-on. When fighting with an opponent of similar strength, it would be strange if he wasn't dealt with by brute force. After the two of them fought for an hour, the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator was a little tired and Wang Daoxing gradually gained the upper hand with his rich battle experience. At this time, the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator could admit defeat. If he continued to fight, he would definitely lose. However, this group of hotheads would rather die than admit defeat. Be it his sect's elders or himself, none of them had the intention to admit defeat. When the defeat was certain, the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator used a forbidden technique and burned his quintessential essence to fight Wang Daoxing to the death. Wang Daoxing was experienced in battle and naturally knew how to deal with it. He used the Earth Armor Talisman and Spirit Travel Talisman to pull away from his opponent and use talismans to exhaust his opponent. The forbidden technique couldn't last long and the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator only lasted for 100 breaths of time before he ran out of quintessential essence and became extremely weak. This person cursed the Wang family the most fiercely, so Wang Daoxing naturally wouldn't let him off and killed him with a sword. A series of curses came from the Cruel Sun Palace side. Although the Cruel Sun Palace cultivator was a hothead, his strength was comparable to Wang Daoxing. The two of them fought to the death for an hour and Wang Daoxing used more than 30 talismans. His spirit energy was greatly depleted and he had many injuries on his body. He proposed to rest for 2 hours. Wang Daoyuan immediately ran to the field and gave it a rejuvenation pill and a dozen golden thread jade peaches to help it recover its injuries and spiritual power. Before the break was over, the referee flew to the sky above the arena and announced, "For the sake of fairness, the participating cultivators are not allowed to use forbidden techniques. Those who violate the rules will be killed by this referee." In addition, the use of external objects was restricted. The number of talismans used in each match should not exceed 20, and the number of refined corpses, ghosts, and spirit beasts should not exceed 2. Take no more than 10 spirit pills of any kind, and no more than 5 caddies of spirit wine. This was blatantly targeting the Wang clan, but the method was not very clever. Wang Daoyuan transmitted his voice to second brother, "If you're at a disadvantage, just admit defeat. Don't take it head on. The most important thing is to stay alive. Leave the rest to me." Wang Daoxing nodded and did not reply. After the 2-hour break ended, Wang Daoyuan left the arena. The cruel Sun Palace learned their lesson and sent out a young cultivator with scars on his face. This person was over 9 feet tall and was a size bigger than Wang Daoxing. With bulging muscles, it seemed like he also walked the path of body refinement. This person was full of killing intent, but this killing intent was not the same as the killing intent of the profound Yin Spring. Instead, it seemed to be accumulated from killing too many people. This kind of killing intent that formed spontaneously would not harm the body, but would easily affect the mind. Looking at this person's killing intent, he must have killed hundreds of people. But it was not certain if they were human cultivators or monster beasts. His fighting experience was definitely not weak, at least not lower than Wang Daoxing. This cultivator took out a magic tool. His magic tool was not a sword, but a low-grade tier 2 mountain-splitting axe. Looking at his clothes, he was also an elite disciple of the cruel Sun Palace. His body refinement inheritance was definitely stronger than Wang Daoxing's. This person's cultivation was also slightly higher than Wang Daoxing's, only a step away from Foundation Establishment Level 4. Wang Daoxing had almost no chance of winning. It would be good enough if he could escape unscathed. The two started to fight. The cruel Sun Palace cultivator chopped down with his axe. Wang Daoxing was a metal attribute cultivator and could not cultivate the cloud mist escape. He also did not have any brilliant escape techniques, so he could only receive the axe. However, he was also experienced in hundreds of battles and would not stupidly receive it head-on. He held the hilt of the giant sword with his right hand and raised it high, using his left arm to support the sword. The giant sword was high on the right and low on the left. The mountain-splitting axe struck down and slid down the sword to the left. Wang Daoxing borrowed the force to dodge to the right, neutralizing most of the force. The cruel Sun Palace cultivator's attack was powerful, but it was easily neutralized by Wang Daoxing. He was a little embarrassed. However, cultivators who used heavy magic tools usually fought head-on, with very few variations. There was no way to play tricks. The cruel Sun Palace cultivator's attack did not work, so he followed up with a second attack. This time, the axe swept towards Wang Daoxing. Wang Daoxing stabbed the giant sword in his hand into the crevice of the rock on the ground and held the hilt with both hands to receive the attack. In the end, there was a difference in strength. The axe swept Wang Daoxing his sword away. The giant sword stabbed into the crevice of the rock, causing a piece of rock to break. Wang Daoxing was sent flying more than 5 feet away. When he landed, he found that the giant sword in his hand was severely damaged. There were already cracks on the sword. With the magic tool broken, his life might be in danger if he continued fighting. Wang Daoyuan shouted, "Second brother, quickly admit defeat." Wang Daoxing struggled for a while before admitting defeat. The referee immediately announced the end of the duel. The cruel Sun Palace cultivators cheered. Wang Daoxing walked out of the duel with a face full of disappointment. Wang Daoyuan persuaded, "Second brother, don't take it to heart. After all, the cruel Sun Palace's body refinement inheritance is the strongest among the 3 great sections. It's not something our Wang family can compare to. Your defeat this time is not because of your fighting." The duel on the field continued. After 2 days, the early stage foundation establishment battle was finally decided. The Netherworld sect sent out very few cultivators. The cultivators of their subsidiary clans could not compare to the Cruel Sun Palace disciples. In the end, the Cruel Sun Palace won with a huge advantage with more than 10 people left. It was the turn of the middle stage foundation establishment cultivators. The middle stage foundation establishment cultivators from both sides came to the side of the field. Half of the Cruel Sun Palace's side were from their own sect. The Netherworld sect only had 6 cultivators from their own sect. The referee announced the start of the middle stage foundation establishment battle. A 5th level foundation establishment cultivator from the Cruel Sun Palace immediately jumped up and shouted, "Wang family's gutless scoundrel, get up here." Wang Daoyuan walked onto the duel field and used his spiritual sense to scan his opponent. This guy was also a body refinement cultivator. His body was not weak, but he was like a fledgling with no battle experience. It would not take much effort to deal with this kind of simpleton. Wang Daoyuan took out his black gold sword and said with disdain, "In the last few breaths of your life, you don't even leave behind a few last words. You just said such nonsense." When the opponent heard this, he used a defensive spell and rushed towards him with his giant sword. At this time, a small dark cloud in the sky covered the sun, leaving a small shadow on the duel field. Wang Daoyuan spread out his spiritual sense to suppress his opponent. Then he disappeared from his opponent's sight. After a breath, Wang Daoyuan appeared 3 feet behind his opponent. The black gold sword was still dripping with blood. The opponent was lying on the ground with his defensive spell broken. There was a bloody wound on his neck that was still bleeding. The Cruel Sun Palace's side was in an uproar. Someone asked the elders what happened. A Zifu disciple replied, "This Wang family cultivator used the first stage shadow evasion spell to hide in the shadows." A foundation establishment cultivator's spiritual sense could easily see through it. But his spiritual sense was too strong and completely suppressed his opponent. This shadow evasion spell was obtained by Wang Daoyuan when he killed the blood shadow assassin when he was at the 7th level of Qi disciple. He did not take it seriously before and only used it a few times in the forest of Green Willow province. Wang Daoyuan shook the sword in his hand, shaking off the blood on it, and said indifferently, "Next." Chapter 255. The Netherworld sect's morale was low due to their loss in the early stage foundation establishment duel. Now that Wang Daoyuan killed a cultivator of the Cruel Sun Palace in one move, the Netherworld sect's camp burst into cheers. Wang Daoxing was especially excited. Although he had matured a bit, he still had a bad temper. The cultivators of the Cruel Sun Palace insulted the Wang clan, but he couldn't kill them all. He felt very sullen. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan instantly killed a person. Wang Daoxing was very happy and shouted, "Seventh brother, well done. Kill these cowardly rats." The cultivators of the Cruel Sun Palace were not to be outdone. Several early-stage foundation establishment cultivators started cursing at Wang Daoxing. The Zifu disciple who answered the question earlier said to the Cruel Sun Palace's participants, "This person's spiritual sense cultivation is far superior to others of the same stage. He has rich experience in fighting. The sword in his hand is also very sharp. It can directly break through defensive spells and kill a body refinement cultivator." He guessed that his ability to fight head-on shouldn't be strong, so he sent a cultivator with a powerful defensive spell. The Wang clan doesn't have any spiritual sense attack methods. He shouldn't be able to directly attack with his spiritual sense. At most, he should be able to suppress it. As long as you can block his sneak attack, killing him will be easy. Who dares to kill this Wang clan brat and avenge our ancestors? As soon as the Zifu disciple finished speaking, a 5th stage foundation establishment cultivator stood up and said, "I'll do it." Before he finished speaking, he had already run into the duel arena. After standing still, he took out a short sword and a shield. Wang Daoyuan used his spiritual sense to scan the opponent and found that he didn't seem to be a body refinement cultivator. However, the short sword and shield were not ordinary. They were a rare combination magic tool. When he used his spiritual sense to scan them, he found that the two magic tools had a clear connection. It seemed that the tool patterns on them could fuse together at any time. This cultivator didn't waste any words. He directly took out the short sword and flew towards Wang Daoyuan. Under Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense, he found that the cultivator's spiritual sense didn't directly act on the short sword, but directly on the shield. Through the connection between the shield and the short sword, he controlled the short sword to attack. The speed and power of this short sword were much stronger than the flying swords used by ordinary cultivators. Seeing the dagger flying towards him, Wang Daoyuan didn't know how strong his opponent was, so he didn't dare to take it head-on. Instead, he used the smoke escape and dodged the attack. Then, he waved the black gold sword in his hand, and a long sword shadow flew out and hit the shield-wielding cultivator. The shield-wielding cultivator held his shield horizontally. The shield instantly turned into a tortoise, blocking the sword phantom. At the same time, the dagger turned into a viper and pounced on him. Wang Daoyuan had a strange look on his face. This move seemed familiar. During the Clearly Market test, Elder Jin's great-grandson also used this move. The combination of the artifact and the combined artifact was the complete path. That kid's surname Jin only had the shape, but not the spirit. The complete version of the shield-wielding cultivator's combined magical treasure would definitely be even more powerful. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to take it head-on. He used the cloud mist escape to dodge the attack. Then, he used the myriad sword art and condensed dozens of long sword phantoms. He controlled the long sword phantoms to attack the shield-wielding cultivator. The shield-wielding cultivator used a shield to block the long sword phantoms. How could Wang Daoyuan let him do as he wished? After half a year of practice, Wang Daoyuan could already control the myriad sword art as easily as Li Qingchuan. He separated the dozens of long sword phantoms and surrounded the opponent from all directions. No matter which direction the opponent's shield was defending, the other places were all weak. The shield-wielding cultivator immediately called back the dagger that had turned into a viper. The dagger and the shield merged into one, and the phantom of the black tortoise appeared to protect him. Wang Daoyuan's long sword phantoms attacked from all directions at the same time. They were all blocked by the phantom of the black tortoise and did not hurt the opponent at all. He naturally knew how powerful the black tortoise was. It was the divine beast with the strongest defense. Even if it was just a phantom, it was not easy to break through it. At the very least, he would need to use the heaven-slashing sword 4 or 5 times. This was only the second round. He would try his best not to use spells with high destructive power, in case the sword cultivator on the other side attacked first. Since he could not break the tortoise's shell, he would exhaust him. The black tortoise was of the water attribute. This cultivator should also be a water attribute cultivator. The most suitable way to fight a water attribute cultivator was to use earth attribute spirit energy. This black tortoise phantom was not particularly big. It was only 3 meters long and 8 feet wide. Wang Daoyuan used the quagmire technique to create a muddy ground, and wrapped the black tortoise phantom inside. Before joining the battle, he suppressed the spirit energy seed and converted all the spirit energy in his body. Now, his spirit energy did not have any special attributes. The quagmire technique was also not corrosive. While he controlled the quagmire technique, there was also a trace of spirit energy fluctuation on the sword in his hand. As long as the opponent dared to remove the black tortoise phantom, he would use the myriad sword art to attack. The Savage Sun Palace cultivator did not dare to remove the black tortoise phantom, and tried his best to break free from the quagmire technique. He could only barely maintain the black tortoise phantom and fight a war of attrition with Wang Daoyuan. A Penta spirit root cultivator had never feared anyone in a war of attrition. Moreover, he could drink 5 caddies of spirit wine. Some spirit peach stew had already been brewed in the space of the spirit pearl. Although it was not aged, the main ingredient was a low-grade grade 2 golden jade peach. Its ability to recover spirit energy was not inferior to a 100-year-old scarlet blood wine. Furthermore, Wang Daoyuan only had to maintain the quagmire technique. It did not consume much spirit energy, and it would not be a problem for him to last for 4 to 6 hours. However, the opponent had to maintain an extremely powerful defensive spell, which consumed much more spirit energy. At most, he would be able to last for an hour. Clearly, Wang Daoyuan had overestimated his opponent. After the two of them were in a stalemate for 15 minutes, the opponent could not hold on any longer. The black tortoise phantom had clearly dimmed and was very unstable. It would probably only take half a cup of tea's time for this brat's spirit energy to be exhausted. The Savage Sun Palace Zifu Realm Cultivator shouted, "Admit defeat, you are not his match." Wang Daoyuan wanted to use Heaven Cleaving Sword to kill his opponent before he spoke. After thinking for a moment, he still did not make the decision to attack. To Wang Daoyuan, the most important thing was to obtain 5 consecutive victories. Whether or not he could kill his opponent was not important. Furthermore, if he killed his opponent in this arena, the items of the deceased would be taken back by his faction. Even if he killed this Savage Sun Palace cultivator with the tortoise shell, he would not be able to obtain the combined Dharma treasure. Apart from venting his anger, there was no other benefit. Instead, it might cause the lightning attribute sword cultivator to enter the arena earlier. The Savage Sun Palace cultivator wanted to continue, but when he saw the dimming black tortoise phantom, he could only sigh and shout, "I admit defeat." The referee announced the end of the battle. Wang Daoyuan had obtained victory. The Savage Sun Palace cultivator withdrew the black tortoise phantom, and Wang Daoyuan withdrew the quagmire technique. This cultivator walked back dejectedly. The Savage Sun Palace cultivators were so angry that they all asked for a rematch. The underworld sect side once again erupted into cheers. Wang Daoxing was also very happy, and once again began to curse the Savage Sun Palace cultivator. This time, Wang Daoyuan did not immediately invite his next opponent to enter the arena. Instead, he requested to rest and meditate to recover his spirit energy. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, his spirit energy had completely recovered. Wang Daoyuan stood up, shouting towards the Savage Sun Palace cultivators, "Is there no one who can fight?" The Savage Sun Palace cultivators all had fiery tempers. How could they endure this? They all asked for a rematch. The Zifu Realm cultivator said, "I didn't expect that this Wang clan cultivator would have some ability to fight head-on. However, he isn't very strong. Continue with the previous strategy. Send up a cultivator who can block his long sword. That way, even if you cannot win, you can at least preserve your life. If you want to win, it's best if your attack or dodging techniques are stronger." Chapter 256. Several cultivators from the Savage Sun Palace requested to fight, but the Zifu Realm cultivator didn't agree. It wasn't until an armored 6th-level Foundation Establishment cultivator came forward and requested to fight that the Zifu Realm cultivator said, "If Xuanhu fights, it won't be a problem to take down that kid from the Wang clan. You're also one of the main forces in the mid-stage Foundation Establishment duel. Try not to be injured when you kill that kid. Try to defeat more cultivators from the underworld sect later on. Don't put too much pressure on Wudao." The armored cultivator cupped his hands and said, "Elder, don't worry. I'll definitely defeat the Wang clan cultivator." With that, he walked towards the duel arena. Wang Daoyuan stared at the newcomer, only to see that the newcomer was clad in black armor, with flying tigers engraved on it. The armored cultivator came to the center of the arena and took out a silver spear from his storage bag. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and asked, "I'm Wang Daoyuan of the Jade Spring Wang clan. May I ask if you're a cultivator from the Wei clan of Cold River Pass?" The armored cultivator cupped his hands and returned the greeting, "Wei Xuanhu of the Wei clan of Cold River Pass greets Daoyu." The Cold River Pass was a pass in the northwest corner of the Zhao country. At the same time, it faced the threat of demon beasts and Wei country. The Wei clan of Cold River Pass was very similar to the Wang clan. They were also old officials of the Zhao family. The Wei clan didn't have a long history, only about 600 years. The Wei clan ancestor and the Wang clan ancestor were good friends and had fought side by side. The Wei clan's patriarch was just an ordinary gatekeeper at the Cold River Pass. What he learned were the most basic cultivation techniques and spells used in battle formations. However, the Wei clan ancestor was extremely talented. He relied on these simple techniques and dharma spells to make outstanding military achievements. The Zhao royal family rewarded him with a foundation establishment pill. The Wei clan ancestor successfully reached the foundation establishment realm and used the military's cultivation techniques and dharma spells as a foundation to create a suitable technique and dharma spell for himself. After that, the Wei clan ancestor used his self-created techniques and dharma spells to shine in the military. In the end, he was conferred the title of Marquis of Cold River due to his military achievements. His fief was near the Cold River Pass. The ancestor of the Wei family had become a golden core cultivator more than 400 years ago. He had gradually perfected his cultivation methods and spells, leaving behind a powerful legacy for the Wei family. However, when the three great sects rebelled, he supported the first prince and fought to the death with him. The successor of the Wei family was disheartened by the Zhao family and surrendered to the Cruel Sun Palace. This was because the Wei clan had surrendered to the Cruel Sun Palace before the three major sects gained the upper hand. The Cruel Sun Palace used the Wei family as a sign to recruit the Zhao family's subordinate forces and gave the Wei family the treatment of a direct descendant of the Cruel Sun Palace. All these years, the Wei family's situation was much better than the Wang family's. Although there were no more Jin Dan cultivators, there were now 3 Zifu disciples, all of whom were elders of the Crescent Sun Palace. The Wei family's heritage was rich in knowledge, including body refinement and dharma spells. Their core inheritance was spear techniques. The Wei family's spear techniques were similar to those of sword cultivators. The Wei family's inheritance was very comprehensive. Although there were no outstanding advantages, there were no obvious weaknesses either. To Wang Daoyuan, the only weakness of the Wei clan's inheritance was that its escape technique was not as good as the smoke escape. This was also his chance to win. After the two saluted each other, the battle officially began. Wei Xuanhu thrust his silver spear at Wang Daoyuan's throat. Wang Daoyuan did not choose to dodge, but to attack back. The Wei clan's spear techniques were infused with the art of war. They emphasized on using momentum to suppress the enemy and were best at chasing after the enemy. If one chose to dodge, Wei Xuanhu would gain the upper hand and use momentum to suppress the enemy. His following moves and dharma spells would become more and more powerful. The best way was to not give in from the start and suppress his momentum. Wang Daoyuan used his black gold sword to block the silver spear and used the smoke escape to charge at Wei Xuanhu. The silver spear was 6 feet long. Once Wang Daoyuan got close to it, it would be difficult for it to display its power. Wei Xuanhu released the silver spear in his right hand and clenched his fist, punching at Wang Daoyuan. His fist collided with Wang Daoyuan's right shoulder, and both of them were pushed back 3 feet. Wang Daoyuan seized the opportunity and brandished his long sword. 5 long sword phantoms appeared and attacked Wei Xuanhu. At the same time, Wei Xuanhu brandished his spear a few times. The spearhead released a few waves of energy, which had the feel of a sword cultivator's sword chi. The 5 long sword phantoms and the waves of energy from the silver spear were quickly shattered. After Wang Daoyuan released the sword chi, he immediately accumulated his spiritual energy and prepared to use the sky-chopping sword. After Wei Xuanhu brandished his spear, the spiritual energy on his spear surged. After 3 breaths of time, a 25 feet long giant sword phantoms appeared on the long sword in Wang Daoyuan's hand. He brandished the giant sword and hacked at Wei Xuanhu. On Wei Xuanhu's long spear, the phantoms of a 20 feet long ferocious tiger with wings appeared. The ferocious tiger flew away from the long spear and collided with the giant sword. The giant sword was bitten in half by the ferocious tiger, and the remaining part of the sword slashed at the ferocious tiger's body. The tiger phantoms became extremely dim. Wei Xuanhu's cultivation was one level higher than Wang Daoyuan's, and the Wei clan's inheritance was also far superior to the Gui Yuan sword sect's inheritance. Wang Daoyuan had expected that Wei Xuanhu would be at a disadvantage in this exchange of blows. The white tiger phantoms continued to pounce at Wang Daoyuan. The spiritual energy in Wang Daoyuan's hands surged, and in half a breath's time, a flaming meteorite was completely condensed. He threw it at the tiger phantoms. The flaming meteorite destroyed the tiger phantoms, and with the remaining energy, it continued to smash at Wei Xuanhu. Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape and followed behind the flaming meteorite. He held his long sword and was prepared to kill Wei Xuanhu in one blow. At this moment, Wei Xuanhu no longer had the time to cast any powerful spells. He could only wave his silver spear and destroy the flaming meteorite, then use the spear's shaft to block the long sword. After the long sword touched the spear shaft, Wang Daoyuan let go of the long sword and used the imperial sword technique, controlling the flying sword to change its direction and fly past the spear shaft. The two of them passed by each other, and the black gold sword slashed at Wei Xuanhu's neck. Wei Xuanhu could only tilt his head to dodge, and the long sword slashed his neck. Fortunately, his neck was protected by the armor, and he tilted his head to dodge, which reduced the force of the attack. The black gold sword only left a sword mark on the armor. Wang Daoyuan divided his attention and condensed another flaming meteorite in his hand, throwing it at Wei Xuanhu's back. Wei Xuanhu had just escaped death, and he had no time to dodge. He gave up on dodging, and decided to exchange injury for injury. He waved his silver spear and swept it at Wang Daoyuan. He was hit by the flaming meteorite, and he almost fell to the ground. Wang Daoyuan's back was also hit by his spear, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The Wei clan's spear technique was powerful only if it had momentum. However, when he was fighting against Wang Daoyuan, he was disrupted by the smoke escape. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't give him the chance to stabilize his position, and he continuously condensed meteorites in his hand. He used the smoke escape to change his position, and he threw the flaming meteorites at Wei Xuanhu from different directions. Wei Xuanhu couldn't dodge in time, and he was hit repeatedly. After 20 breaths of time, Wei Xuanhu was hit 6 or 7 times by the flaming meteorites. Wang Daoyuan persuaded, Wei Daoyu, our clans can be considered old friends. We have no enmity, and I can't bear to kill you. Just admit defeat. The Zifu disciple of the Cruel Sun Palace Hall also sighed and said, Xuanhu, just admit defeat. Wei Xuanhu admitted defeat in a low voice, and he walked out of the dueling ground dejectedly. The Zifu disciple said, I didn't expect that Daoist Master Yuchuan's descendant would have such a character. He was actually so good at hiding his strength, and even managed to deceive me. Among the Cruel Sun Palace Hall's cultivators, a cultivator with a long sword on his back asked, Martial uncle, should I make a move? The Zifu disciple refused, absolutely not. You are our final trump card, how can you take the risk? Before we figure out the strength of the Wang clan's kid, you must not make a move. Chapter 257. The cultivators from the Netherworld sect also felt that it was inconceivable. The disciples of the three sects often competed with each other and had some understanding of each other. Wei Xuanhu was quite famous among the younger generation of the state of Zhao. They didn't expect that he would be defeated by an unknown cultivator from the Wang clan. The leading elder of the Netherworld sect found it hard to believe that Wang Daoyuan, a cultivator from the Netherworld sect, was able to defeat one of the main forces of the Cruel Sun Palace. The main forces of the Netherworld sect are all experts who could obtain 4 or 5 consecutive victories in a duel between the early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. Wang Daoxing shouted excitedly and continued to greet the cultivators of the Netherworld sect. On the side of the Cruel Sun Palace, a 3-meter-tall cultivator with bulging muscles said, Martial uncle, I'll fight him. The Zifu realm cultivator thought for a moment and said, All right, Black Flame, you'll fight in the next round. That brat from the Wang clan isn't a body refiner and his body is far inferior to yours. You'll exchange injuries with him. Even if you can't win, you'll still be able to injure him heavily. Black Flame replied, Martial uncle, don't worry. I'll definitely take him down. Wang Daoyuan applied for 2 hours of recovery time and was swept by Wei Xuanhu's spear shaft. Although he wasn't heavily injured, his qi and blood were still somewhat impeded. He took out a jar of 100-year-old scarlet blood wine and drank a few mouthfuls before meditating to recover. Using pills and spirit wine to recover during the rest time was not restricted. After 2 hours, the recovery time ended and the next duel began. Black Flame walked into the duel arena. Wang Daoyuan used both his spiritual sense and his eyes to investigate him. He discovered that Black Flame didn't seem to have cultivated any body refiner technique, but his body was stronger than ordinary body refiners. Moreover, his skin was dark and there were silver stripes on it. It seemed that he was born with it. Even his black hair had white stripes. If he were to lie on the ground, he would really look like a tiger. Wang Daoyuan guessed that he should be a half-demon with the bloodline of some tiger-type demonic beast. After the two bowed, they began to fight. Black Flame's hands formed into claws and pounced towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan didn't know how strong he was, so he didn't dare to take it head-on. He used the smoke escape technique to avoid the attack. After He Yen missed, he landed on the ground. His forelimbs tapped lightly on the ground, and he leaped up like a big cat, pouncing towards Wang Daoyuan again. Half-demons had the bloodlines of both humans and monsters. Their bodies were extremely strong, and their intelligence was not inferior to humans. However, their cultivation path usually chose to develop the talents brought about by the bloodline of monsters. The strength of tiger-type demonic beasts lay in their physical bodies. They did not specialize in the aspect of divine sense. Moreover, this fellow did not cultivate any body refinement techniques, nor did he have any armor or other defensive artifacts on him. Wang Daoyuan planned to use the same trick again, using his divine sense to suppress his opponent and then slashing his throat with his sword. He used Cloud Mist Escape to avoid Black Flame's attack and used his divine sense to suppress Black Flame. Just as Black Flame was about to land on the ground, he used the Cloud Mist Escape to conceal himself and used Shadow Escape to rush towards Black Flame. The two of them passed each other. Wang Daoyuan's inky gold sword slashed across Black Flame's neck, while Black Flame's hand struck Wang Daoyuan's stomach. There was a trace of blood on the inky gold sword and a few pieces of cloth on Black Flame's right hand. Exclamations came from both sides. There were 5 claw marks on Wang Daoyuan's clothes on his abdomen. Even the Nightmare Dragon armor was left with deep scratches. Fortunately, the Nightmare Dragon armor was strong enough to not be pierced through. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured. On the other side, Black Flame was not killed. He blocked Wang Daoyuan's sword with his left hand. There was also a long sword mark on his left hand. In this exchange, Wang Daoyuan took advantage of the Nightmare Dragon armor's protection. He also saw Black Flame's close combat ability, so he didn't dare to fight in close combat again. After being injured, Black Flame's attack didn't decrease and continued to pounce on him. Wang Daoyuan could only use Smoke Escape to dodge, but Black Flame's speed was too fast and Smoke Escape couldn't open up too much distance. He could only use other spells as he fled. Although the sky-cleaving sword was powerful, it wasn't fast enough and was easily dodged by Black Flame. Although the myriad sword art was fast enough, its lethality was too scattered. The sword phantoms were all shattered by Black Flame's claw. Wang Daoyuan could only use the meteor fall technique to balance lethality and speed. He only needed about 6 breaths of time to accumulate spirit energy. As a disciple of the cruel Sun Palace, Black Flame naturally wouldn't just simply attack. Wang Daoyuan began to use spells with high lethality. He naturally wouldn't sit still and wait for death. His spirit energy surged and a fierce black tiger phantom with silver stripes appeared on his body. The black tiger phantom was burning with black flames. Wang Daoyuan ordered his doppelganger to check the myriad spirit book and found out that the tiger phantom was a third-rank upper-grade demon beast called the Black Flame Tiger. Its body was extremely strong and it was good at using fire attacks. He wasn't confident anymore. This guy hadn't used his trump card yet. After Black Flame used the Black Flame Tiger Phantom, his speed became even faster and was on par with the smoke escape. Wang Daoyuan couldn't completely dodge his attack even with the smoke escape. His robe was torn to shreds. Fortunately, the Nightmare Dragon armor was strong enough to block most of the attacks. Even so, Wang Daoyuan's arms and legs were scratched in places that weren't covered by the Nightmare Dragon armor. The meteor fall technique finished charging and a flaming meteor flew towards Black Flame. The Black Flame Tiger Phantom became more solid. It opened its mouth and spat out a black fireball, which collided with the flaming meteor. The flaming meteor shattered, but the black fireball remained. It shattered another flaming meteor before completely disappearing. Wang Daoyuan threw out all 10 flaming meteors. The Black Flame Tiger Phantom also spat out 5 black fireballs, blocking all the flaming meteors. After that, the Black Flame Tiger Phantom spat out another black fireball towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan couldn't use any of the spells he could, so he could only use the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. Otherwise, he would be quickly defeated by Black Flame. He used the smoke escape to escape while condensing the Golden Rock Phantom at the same time. It took about 8 breaths to condense the Golden Rock Phantom. During this time, Wang Daoyuan was scratched more than 10 times, and 3 of them directly hit his body. Fortunately, when condensing the Golden Rock Phantom, he had spirit energy to protect his body. Most of Black Flame's attacks were blocked by the protective spirit energy. The places where he was scratched weren't serious. After 8 breaths, a sharp eagle cry sounded, and the Golden Rock Phantom with a wingspan of more than 60 meters appeared. Black Flame's pouncing speed also paused, and the Golden Rock Phantom pounced towards him. A tiger and a rock were fighting. In the past, Wang Daoyuan often observed the fight between Jin Yi and Yin Yi, and imitated Jin Yi's fighting posture. The Golden Rock Phantom's close combat ability was very strong, and Black Flame was quickly at a disadvantage. He controlled the Black Flame Tiger Phantom to spit out 5 black fireballs in a row, and Wang Daoyuan controlled the Golden Rock Phantom to release 100 feather blades at the same time. The power of the black fireballs was about 20 times that of a medium-grade second-stage Golden Knife Talisman, and slightly weaker than the 7 feather blades. The 5 black fireballs only blocked 35 feather blades, and the other feather blades all hit the Black Flame Tiger Phantom. The Black Flame Tiger Phantom was directly shattered, and Black Flame himself also spat out a mouthful of blood. Wang Daoyuan once again shot out more than 30 feather blades towards Black Flame. Although Black Flame's body was agile, the speed of the feather blades was much faster than the meteor fall technique, and he couldn't dodge at all. Even though his body was strong, he couldn't ignore the feather blades' attack, and more than 31-inch deep wounds appeared on his body. The Purple Mansion Elder of the Cruel Sun Palace immediately shouted, "Black Flame, admit defeat." Chapter 258. Wang Daoyuan was about to send out another feather blade, when Black Flame immediately shouted, "I admit defeat." This kid's surrender was simply too fast. He didn't even have time to send out his feather blade. Since Black Flame had already admitted defeat, if he continued to attack, he would be violating the rules. He could only give up. The cultivators on both sides were numb. Every time Wang Daoyuan encountered a powerful opponent, he would come up with a new technique. Only, this Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique was simply too extraordinary. The Foundation establishment cultivators on both sides all asked their elders what this Golden Rock illusion was. The Zifu disciples didn't recognize it either. After all, true monarch Golden Rock was someone from tens of thousands of years ago. The 3 great sects only had a few thousand years of history. They had never heard of true monarch Golden Rock's name. He put away the golden rock illusion and requested 2 hours of recovery time. This time, his injuries were not light. Earlier, when he had used the meteor fall technique, his arms and legs had been clawed 4 or 5 times. Each claw wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. Wang Daoyuan used the rejuvenation technique on himself several times, then drank a jar of 100-year scarlet blood wine. After 2 hours of rest, his injuries had only recovered 70 to 80%. In order to fully recover, he would need to rest for a few more days. He stood up and shouted towards the cultivators of the Crescent Sun Palace, "I hear that the Crescent Sun Palace has a lightning-type sword cultivator at the 6th level of Foundation establishment. Let him come up. I'll kill him and then leave." The cultivator of the Crescent Sun Palace was enraged. He immediately charged towards the dueling arena. The Zifu disciple leader grabbed him, saying, "Wudao, calm down. He's just trying to provoke you. If he has other tricks up his sleeve and you rashly go up and fall into his trap, we won't have any chance of victory. Qingfen, you're fast. Go up and defeat him before he condenses his golden rock illusion. Even if you can't win, you have to injure him." A handsome youth clasped his hands, saying, "As you command." After speaking, he transformed into a gust of wind and instantly arrived at the center of the dueling arena. After the two bowed, the duel began. Wang Daoyuan, upon seeing his opponent's techniques, knew that this kid was a wind-type cultivator. He knew that speed wasn't an advantage, so he didn't rely on the mist evasion to deal with him. He immediately used 5 earth armor talismans and began to use the golden rock wrestling dragon technique. Qingfen saw that he didn't care about martial ethics, so he immediately used his ultimate move. He casually cast a few wind attribute offensive spells in an attempt to interrupt the spell casting. How could a spell cast so casually interrupt the golden rock wrestling dragon technique? He quickly broke through the 5 layers of earth armor talismans and launched a series of attacks at Wang Daoyuan. The golden rock wrestling dragon technique had its own protective spirit energy, which blocked most of the power. Wang Daoyuan didn't suffer much damage, only some superficial wounds. Qingfen wanted to cast a powerful spell, but there wasn't enough time. 8 breaths later, the golden rock's shadow was fully condensed. Wang Daoyuan immediately released more than 30 feather blades, attacking Qingfen. Qingfen quickly dodged. At the same time, his wind attribute spiritual energy formed a long robe on his body. His wind attribute evasion technique was much faster than the smoke evasion technique. However, the feather blades were even faster. Among all the spells that Wang Daoyuan cultivated, only the Earth Divine Lightning could match the speed of the feather blades. Even a high-level evasion technique would be difficult to completely dodge, not to mention the fact that multiple feather blades could be shot out in an instant. In the end, 10 feather blades hit Qingfen. The long robe he condensed was also extraordinary. It withstood the attack of the 10 feather blades and didn't immediately shatter. He immediately circulated his spirit energy to replenish the long robe's shadow. Wang Daoyuan released another 50 feather blades. This time, more than 20 of them hit him. The long robe's shadow was shattered, but Qingfen also suffered serious injuries. He knew that he would die without a doubt if he took another wave of feather blades. He simply didn't persist. He didn't wait for the Split Sun Palace's elder to speak and directly admitted defeat. After this battle, Wang Daoyuan rested for 2 hours. He had only fought for a dozen breaths on the field. Although he only suffered some superficial wounds, he still applied for 2 hours to recover from his previous injuries. Luo Hongming came to the field and gave Wang Daoyuan a bottle of healing pills. He said, "Dao, you fought well. You defeated 2 of the Split Sun Palace's main forces and a wind attribute cultivator. My granduncle was very satisfied and asked me to send you a bottle of jade muscle pills. As long as you take a jade muscle pill, you'll recover to your original state in a quarter of an hour." Wang Daoyuan took the bottle of pills. There were 3 jade muscle pills in the bottle. He took one and found that the effect was indeed good. In just a quarter of an hour, all his previous injuries were completely healed. Giving gifts to others meant that there was a request. The Netherworld sect master asked Luo Hongming to send healing pills. There must be a request. He cupped his hands to Luo Hongming and said, "Many thanks, Dao Yu Luo." Does the sect master have any instructions? Luo Hongming didn't speak directly. Instead, he sent a voice transmission. Granduncle said that when Dao Yu encounters the Split Sun Palace's Thunder Attribute Sword Cultivator, you'll be able to injure him. If you can seriously injure him, the Netherworld sect will reward Dao Yu with a Tier 3 pill, artifact, and talisman array inheritance. If you can defeat him, there will be another reward in addition to 4 Tier 3 legacies. If you can kill him, the Yin-Yang Purple Jade won't be a problem. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Dao Yu, please tell the sect master that I'll do my best." Luo Hongming left with satisfaction. Wang Daoyuan was unhappy. The Netherworld sect's higher-ups were true cowards. Their sect's elites weren't willing to send him to fight with the Split Sun Palace's trump card. Although the Yin-Yang Purple Jade was tempting, Wang Daoyuan knew that even if he used all his means, he didn't have much chance of winning. After all, the thunder escape of a Thunder Attribute Cultivator wasn't slow. However, if he used the Golden Peng seizing dragon art and used all his feather blades, it was still possible to seriously injure his opponent. The Split Sun Palace's side was still discussing who should go on stage. They wanted to continue sending people to test Wang Daoyuan's background. However, Wang Daoyuan didn't use any other means. He just condensed the Golden Peng's phantom from the start of the fight, and ordinary Dharma spells couldn't interrupt him. The Split Sun Palace's main cultivators weren't his match. If they didn't use their trump card and sent others, it was very likely that they would just be sending themselves to death. It was already shameful enough for them to be defeated by an unknown cultivator from an unknown clan, killing 2 of their main forces and 1 of their wind attribute cultivators. What was even more embarrassing was that this person was from the Wang clan. There had always been a rumor that the Wang clan was the Split Sun Palace's nemesis. However, it was only a rumor. If they continued to send him and he killed the entire Split Sun Palace's team, then the Wang clan would be the Split Sun Palace's nemesis. The Split Sun Palace's thousands of years of inheritance was restrained by a Foundation Establishment clan. The entire sect had no place to hide their face. Finally, they reached an agreement to send their trump card, the Lightning Attribute Sword Cultivator. The leading Zifu Realm Cultivator said to the Sword Cultivator on his back, "Wudao, I believe that with your strength, you can defeat your opponent. However, you can't underestimate him. We've already lost 3 experts. If you're heavily injured, the Foundation Establishment middle stage battle won't have much hope. I don't expect you to win beautifully. It's fine as long as you can defeat him without being heavily injured." The Sword Cultivator nodded. "Martial uncle, don't worry. I know the severity of the situation." Finished speaking, he slowly walked towards the arena. After arriving at the center of the arena, he cupped his hands. "If the cultivation environment is the same, I'm not as good as you. Unfortunately, we have different masters. Otherwise, I would be willing to be friends with you." Finished speaking, he took off the sword on his back and performed a sword salute. "Split Sun Palace's Profound Thunder Master's disciple, Lei Wudao. Please advise me." Wang Daoyuan wasn't a proper sword cultivator, so he didn't perform the salute. He only cupped his hands. "Jade Spring Wang Clan's Wang Daoyuan. Please advise me." Chapter 259. After the 2 bowed, Wang Daoyuan immediately took out 20 defensive talismans and activated them all. At the same time, he used Cloud Escape to increase the distance between him and Lei Wudao. Then, he began to accumulate spirit energy to use the Golden Rock Seizing Dragon technique. Lei Wudao wouldn't just watch. His entire body turned into a bolt of lightning. Although his speed wasn't as fast as Qingfen's Wind Attribute Escape technique, it was still much faster than Wang Daoyuan's Cloud Escape. Lei Wudao caught up to him before the Cloud Escape could travel 200 feet. When Wang Daoyuan was roaming outside, he used Cloud Escape to deal with rogue cultivators. It could be said that he was always successful. But today, when he used the Cloud Mist Escape, he was successively suppressed by Black Flame, Qingfeng, and Lei Wudao. After Lei Wudao caught up to Wang Daoyuan, he slashed at him. Wang Daoyuan couldn't dodge in time and could only rely on his talismans to block the attack. This sword strike directly broke through 5 defensive talismans, and the Cloud Mist Escape was also interrupted. Seeing Wang Daoyuan suffer, the cruel Sun Palace people cheered. He was about to use Cloud Escape again when Lei Wudao's second slash arrived and broke another 5 defensive talismans. Since dodging was useless, Wang Daoyuan gave up on using Cloud Escape and focused all his energy on condensing the Golden Rock's image. In the next 2 breaths of time, Lei Wudao slashed 2 more times and broke all of Wang Daoyuan's defensive talismans. The 5th slash went straight for Wang Daoyuan's neck. Although he had spirit energy to protect himself when using the Golden Rock seizing dragon technique, Lei Wudao's attack was too strong. However, Lei Wudao's attacks were extremely powerful, and his protective spiritual energy was unable to completely block them. His body would also be injured. If it was anywhere else, it wouldn't matter. But a wound on the neck was enough to take his life. Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to use Cloud Escape and adjust his posture, trying his best to dodge the slash. Lei Wudao also used an escape technique to follow. In the end, the slash landed on his back, leaving a foot-long sword mark that almost penetrated the turtle dragon armor. The turtle dragon armor had been damaged repeatedly and hadn't been repaired. It was now close to being scrapped. However, its raw material was still tough enough to withstand a lot of attacks. Lei Wudao once again attempted to attack Wang Daoyuan's vitals. Relying on his rich battle experience, Wang Daoyuan avoided the attack. Even when the sword struck the nightmare dragon armor, it was unable to cause much damage to Wang Daoyuan. Seeing that he was unable to interrupt Wang Daoyuan's golden rock shadow, Lei Wudao stopped attacking. Instead, he gripped his sword tightly with both hands and injected spiritual energy into it. It was as if he was accumulating energy and preparing to cast a spell. The shadow of the golden rock was finally formed. On the other side, Lei Wudao's longsword was also flashing with dazzling lightning. Wang Daoyuan immediately released 100 feather blades towards Lei Wudao. Lei Wudao didn't dodge. The sword in his hand shone brightly, and the shadow of a blue rock flew out from the sword. Wang Daoyuan recognized this Peng Phantom. It was the legendary high-rank demonic beast Lei Peng. It possessed the bloodline of the divine beast Golden-Winged Peng and was proficient in using thunder techniques. As soon as the Lei Peng Phantom was formed, it flapped its wings and attacked the feather blades released by the Golden Rock. One by one, the feather blades dissipated under the attack of the Lei Peng Phantom. The Lei Peng Phantom also became dimmer and dimmer. It was clearly not enough to break all the feather blades. Lei Wudao didn't expect the Lei Peng Phantom to be of much use. He only wanted to buy time for himself to dodge the attacks. After the Lei Peng Phantom shattered more than 10 feather blades, it brazenly self-destructed. More than 20 feather blades were directly shattered by the impact. The other feather blades were affected by the impact, and the direction of their attack was deviated. In the end, less than 10 feather blades hit Lei Wudao. The long sword in Lei Wudao's hand flashed, forming a blue longsword phantom that was more than 10 feet long. He waved the longsword phantom, shattering all the incoming feather blades. The longsword phantom also shattered. Lei Wudao blocked the 100 feather blades unscathed. There was a burst of cheers from the cruel Sun Palace. The gloominess of Wang Daoyuan defeating 5 people by himself was swept away. Their morale was high. Wang Daoyuan once again shot out 100 feather blades. At the same time, Lei Wudao's longsword was stabbed into the ground. The lightning attribute's spiritual energy on the sword body surged and quickly condensed into a shield. After that, he continued to inject spiritual energy into the long sword in his hand. Soon, the 100 feather blades collided with the shield. The lightning shield was instantly broken, and more than 30 feather blades were destroyed. Then, he slashed out with the long sword in his hand. The lightning attribute's spiritual energy condensed into a huge blue wave, rolling towards the feather blades. The remaining 60 or so feather blades hit the huge wave. Most of the feather blades were blocked by the huge wave. The huge wave gradually dimmed and finally disappeared. The remaining 10 or so feather blades hit Lei Wudao's body. He also had a defensive spiritual armor on his body, which reduced the power of the feather blades by more than half. The feather blades hit his body, but only caused some superficial wounds. The cultivators of the cruel Sun Palace cheered again. Although Lei Wudao was at a disadvantage, he did not use any tricks to block the 100 feather blades and was not seriously injured. This showed that Wang Daoyuan's Golden Rock Phantom was not unstoppable. Wang Daoyuan once again released 100 feather blades. Lei Wudao used the lightning attribute escape technique. He did not dodge to the sides, but retreated to delay the attack of the feather blades. At the same time, the long sword in his hand constantly split into sword phantoms, surrounding his body. These sword phantoms were not the same as the sword phantoms condensed by the 10,000 sword art. The sword phantoms condensed by the 10,000 sword art only had a vague shape. But the sword phantoms condensed by Lei Wudao were very real. Even the patterns on the swords could be seen clearly. The strangest thing was that these sword phantoms were all different, and each one looked extraordinary. In the end, Lei Wudao condensed 10 swords. Wang Daoyuan knew from the memories of Li Qingxuan that Lei Wudao's move was a very famous sword technique, the shadow sword technique. The sword phantoms he condensed were not ordinary swords, but the natal magic weapon of an ancient sword cultivator. The founder of the shadow sword technique was an ancient sword cultivator. He imitated the power of legendary swords based on what he saw with his own eyes and created this shadow sword technique. Legend had it that when the shadow sword technique was cultivated to the extreme, it could resonate with the ancient sword and carry the power of the ancient sword. These sword phantoms imitated the ancient sword. As for how much power they could unleash, it depended on how deep the user's understanding of the sword was. Lei Wudao used the sword phantoms to block in front of him. The 100 feather blades were directly shattered by the sword chi, and these sword phantoms only dimmed a little. Following that, Lei Wudao brought all of the ancient sword phantoms and attacked Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan only shot out 100 feather blades each time. It was to give everyone a misconception, to make them think that he could only shoot out 100 feather blades at most. Lei Wudao indeed fell for it and took the initiative to close in and attack. 100 feather blades were indeed unable to break all of the ancient sword phantoms. Lei Wudao rushed to a place just 200 feet away from him. He instantly released the remaining 700 feather blades. The spectating crowd and Lei Wudao were all stunned with fright. Wang Daoyuan being able to release all of the feather blades at once clearly exceeded everyone's expectations. This was not over yet. After releasing all of the feather blades, the golden rock phantoms also flew towards Lei Wudao. At this distance, he could not dodge at all. He could only brace himself and receive this blow. In a blink of an eye, the feather blades collided with the ancient sword phantoms. One had to admit that Lei Wudao's shadow sword technique was extremely powerful. The 700 feather blades only barely managed to break all of the ancient sword phantoms. The feather blades were all shattered too. Up until this point, the two people's collision this time could be said to be a draw. But the golden rock phantoms were not to be trifled with either. He directly pounced towards Lei Wudao. Lei Wudao did not have time to cast offensive spells at all. He could only cast an escape technique, wanting to dodge the attack. But his speed could not shake off the golden rock phantoms at all. The eagle claw grabbed his long sword. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual energy was already completely exhausted at this time. He used divine sense to control the golden rock phantoms to self-destruct. The golden rock phantoms turned into a golden rain that filled the sky. The long sword in Lei Wudao's hand was blown into 3 pieces. The defensive spirit armor on his body was also blown into tatters. Lei Wudao was blown more than 300 feet away. This kid even tempered his body and was not directly killed. But his injuries were absolutely not light either. After he landed, he immediately got up and used Thunder Attribute spiritual energy to condense a thunderball. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual energy was exhausted at this time. Even if he drank spiritual wine to recover spiritual energy, it was also too late. Anyway, he did not plan on winning. Being able to deal with serious injuries was not a loss. He shouted decisively, "I admit defeat." You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.